Hello and welcome to On The Esky, a sports podcast where we like to cover a whole bunch of sports. In today's show, we definitely want to get stuck into the cricket, what's happening over in England. We've got the NRL and AFL Finals about to kick off as well. There's NFL preseason news and also a massive story coming out of the EPL. But we'll get to that in a second. We are a day late on the podcast. That was my fault. Sorry for being a pansy and being sick yesterday. Well, I've got the boys with me, Monks and Peps as always. How's your week been, lads?
Yeah, good, mate. Just locked down again here in the nation's capital. I'm not minding it too much, to be honest. Bit of a homebody myself anyway. I've been watching plenty of sport. Yeah, it hasn't affected me too badly. What about you, Monks? What beer have you got there?
I've got Fresh Tracks Brewing Co.
Very good.
Yeah, just saw it in Dan Murphy's
Good,
a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on special.
How's it go?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Easy drinking.
Yeah.
My week's been all right. Sean got me into the cryptos this week, and not to brag, but I'm already 3% down on my portfolio, so yeah, going good.
Well, mate, you're doing better than my sports bet account does. Only been 3% in the red, so hats off to you.
That's it. Yeah. How's your week been, Sean? Besides being sick yesterday.
Of course, work, sports. I've got a quarterback now, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. As always, if you like this content, please give us a subscribe. We do have an Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow. If you don't like the sports we're talking about, there is timestamps throughout the entire episode, so jump to the bit you want to listen to. But I think to kick us off, as we do, we like to shout a beer out to someone in the sporting arena that has done something excellent. And I think I'll throw to you, Peps, first. Who do you want to shout a beer out to?
Yeah, I'm going to shout out Nelson Foley, Canberran bloke, 24-year-old. He's just been picked up by the University of Miami. The U, go Canes. He's a local Ainsley footballer. We won't hold that against him too much, although they are quite a successful club. But yeah, he's going over to the States. He'll be punting for them. He'll be a freshman this year, and I think their current punter is projected to get picked up next year, so might be able to learn a bit from him. So enjoy yourself a nice Florida beer. I'm not sure what they drink down there. I know they fry gators and eat them. I don't know what they wash it down with. So enjoy it, son, and hopefully we don't hear about you being a Florida man, in the news. And yeah, good luck with punting, son.
What are you, Max?
That's it. Yeah. I'm going to the boxing world this week, and actually going back a couple of weeks. This one sort of flew under the radar for us. But Nico Ali Walsh, the grandson of the great Muhammad Ali, made his professional boxing debut a couple of weeks ago. So we're a little bit late to celebration. What was that?
How long did that fight last?
Yeah, we'll get to that. A little late to the celebration, but yeah, I'm going to shout Nico Ali Walsh a beer for his quick work of Jordan Weeks, who was something like a 1-4 fighter before this fight. First round KO. So quick recap. Nico scored a knockdown pretty early on in the round, and then after a couple barrages of combos, the referee stepped in and stopped the fight with like a minute to go in the first round. It was a huge mismatch of an opponent for him. He was outclassed the guy very well. So promising start to his career. Hopefully he kind of emulates some of the performance of his grandfather. Also, as a side note, Nico's trainer is Sugar Hill Stewart, who is also the trainer for Tyson Fury. So definitely got everything around him to be successful. So next beer's on me, and hopefully good career ahead of you.
Does he float like a butterfly and sting like a bee?
Hard to tell. He was very much pushing forward in this fight, and it didn't last too long, so you didn't really see too much of his movement. He was quick on his feet, but yeah, again, didn't really have to see him too defensive.
He's a bit smaller than his old man, yeah?
Only 3 inches. So his old man was, old man, as in Muhammad Ali, was 6'3", he's 6 flat.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he's not boxing in the heavyweight division then.
No,
he's a bit leaner than.
Yeah. So he's in middleweight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But looks good at middleweight as well. He's got some good size to him in terms of muscle.
Keep an eye on him, the grandson of the greatest.
That's it. Yeah. And who have you got this week, Sean?
Yes, I've got I think she's currently number one tennis.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
In the women's side of the comp, Ash Barty. She just won the Cincinnati Open. That's her 5th title of the year. So big congrats to her after coming off that bronze medal at the Olympics. And then the US Open only starts next Monday. So she's in a bit of good form leading into that. Hopefully she can add another title to her list of accolades going forward. So yeah, very impressive.
Definitely. Very stellar year for her.
Our girl Ash.
With that, I think it's some cricket time. And we better talk about this England versus India 3rd test currently underway at Headley in Leeds. Do you want to run us quickly, perhaps, through day 1 and how we got to? Because day 3 is about to start about 15 minutes away from current time.
Yeah, so we're recording Friday evening Australian time. So day 3 about to start. Day 1, this series just keeps on giving. One of the more unbelievable days of cricket in recent memory. India went unchanged from the team that won at Lords, and England made 2 changes, with David Malan coming in for Dom Sibley and Craig Overton in for the injured Mark Wood. Most people familiar with David Malan, AC Milan, they call him, as an excellent T20 player. Although his test form has been a bit lackluster, 16 tests averaging just 27.8. So a bit of pressure on him to perform with this recall. And Craig Overton has been in stellar form in the county cricket championship. He's averaging 13 with the ball, if you wouldn't mind. So was banging down the door for selection. India won the toss and chose to bat. From what you boys saw early on, what are our thoughts on that?
Well, I think Root said early after the toss, the toss he was happy enough to lose. I think they would have preferred it to of course, start batting. But it ended up playing well into their favour. And Jimmy Anderson, vintage Jimmy, their main weapon in England, comes out and they run right through India.
That's it, yeah.
Vintage is the right word there. The bloke's 39 years old. He debuted in 2003. I was having a look at guys that debuted after him. Andrew Strauss, Michael Clark come to mind. And he's a fast bowler. Those guys are top order batsmen that retired 4 or 5 years ago, and he's still going out there and is the most prolific fast bowler of all time. And if you get him on a sort of somewhat cloudy day in the north of England, you better watch out. And he just made an absolute mockery of England's top order. The first wicket of KL Rahul, it was beautiful swing bowling, just set him up, in swinger, out swinger, schnicked him up, got a wicket in the first over, and then he got Pujara in his 3rd over. And Pujara's actually become a bit of a bunny for him. He's only averaging 20 against James Anderson, being dismissed 10 times. Someone who's been a real thorn in the side of the Australians over the last few years. So Jimmy Anderson seems to have his number, especially in England. And then the big one, Virat Kohli. He got him driving at a full outswinger, and he really celebrated well. You don't normally see an animated Jimmy Anderson after a wicket, but obviously with all the back and forth from the second test, the words exchanged at Lords, he really enjoyed that one. And Virat has 50 international innings now without 100 across all forms. The pressure just keeps building on him, doesn't it, boys?
Yep. Oh, big time.
It does.
And especially when the captain on the other side's doing what he's doing at the moment. We'll get to that. But as a direct comparison, and we talked a little bit about it last week. I don't think there's going to be calls to replace Kohli anytime soon. I know some will start considering it, but you now it's still progressing. He's now starting to get a little bit more worried than you were say, a year ago.
Oh, that monkey on his back just keeps nibbling, doesn't it? He just keeps failing at an international level. And, 18 months ago, probably hands down the best batsman in the world and, one of the best ever. And still is, but in a real bad period of form, isn't he?
And again, I think this one, another ball that he's probably nibbling at that he could have let go. Like it was good length, good line, probably a little closer to the ones he got in the last two matches. But he's maybe made that decision and was like, well, I'll leave that one alone.
The thing about this one is I think it was a bit fuller than some of the ones that he got caught, sort of poking at in the first few tests. It probably was there to have a crack at, but exactly right. When the ball is hooping around like it was and you're 2 for fuck all, perhaps leaving that alone is the best option. Hindsight's 20/20, isn't it? He loves having bat on ball, and that's probably what's seen him become a little bit undone of late. And you can see that he's still got that aggressive mindset. He wants to score runs. He's not going to go back into his shell, even though he is in poor form. But yeah, massive wicket there for Jimmy Anderson, who finished up from his 8 overs, 5 maidens, 3 for 6, if you don't mind.
It's pretty sell on.
Rahane was taken by Robinson with the last ball before lunch. Punt came in, got out to a bit of a nothing shot.
That one, he had to either go hard with a cut shot or just leave it alone. He just tried to sort of guide it down to third man, and what's the best result that's going to happen from that? You're going to get a single. What's the worst result? You're going to sneak up on 2 and really put your team in the shitter.
Which is what happened. So in the notes it said Pepe went to bed at this point.
Yeah.
And then the madness happened.
Yeah, this was just after about 11 o'clock Australian Eastern. I went to bed. I thought, oh, geez, very interesting first session and a bit. And then I wish I'd stayed up for about another half an hour, because this is when England just went mad and India lose 4 wickets in 6 balls. Rohit Sharma, the first to go, he saw off about 100 odd rocks. He did the best out of the Indian bats. But he come undone with the pull shot again. And this time, rather than being caught in the deep, he just was all over this one and got on to him a bit quicker, and he put it straight down Ollie Robinson's throat there at mid-on. And then that set up the cascade of Indian bowlers or tail-enders to fall. So Shami caught second slip, first ball. Some of the best commentary that I've seen in recent memory. Nasser Hussain is saying that don't change the plan. He's saying at Lords, the tail come in. They just wanted to bounce them. They had a different field set. He said, just bowl to him like you bowled a Kohli. Have three slips in the gully, top of off. And if it's good enough for Kohli, it's good enough for a tail ender. Lo and behold, schnicks him up, first ball. And then Overton goes on to be on a hat-trick there. It was a peach to Sharma, and Sharma, to his credit, keeps it out. And then the next over, the horror for the Indian fans just continued with Jadeja getting caught plumb LBW from Sam Curran, and then Bumrah LBW reviewed, but it was catching the top of the leg stump. And then his hat-trick ball was actually a really nice ball there to Siraj, who managed to get a little bit of bat on it. And then he didn't last much longer. A good catch from Joe Root. Overton finishes with 3 for 14, and he's come back to the English side. And the Indians all out for 78. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, I think you brought it up there, Pep. So we said there's two key points we wanted to make for England to try and get back into this Test series. One of those was on the bowling side, because they needed to stick to, be patient, stick to the length, stick to the line and length, use the key weapons you've got, which is one, the England climate. Let's swing it, hoop the ball around. Who does that better than anyone? Jimmy Anderson has given what they need to succeed. They stuck to that plan. They actually did it, and they went through and they ran right through the Indian side. So I think it was clear to everyone to see that that's what they had to do. They've now gone out and executed it. So all hats off to them, and that's put them in a really, really good spot. So speaking of which, that then leads into the first innings for the English side. How'd they do?
Yeah, well, that was our second point last week, wasn't it? Is that without Joe Root, this side is looking horrendous.
He needs some help. Someone's got to stand up and help.
Needed some
Who's
help.
going to get his son? Who's going to help him get the rest of the runs?
Well, we were concerned what was going to happen when Joe Root fails and then he's got no one else around him. Turns out he's in the form of his life. He goes out and gets a ton. But before that, Haseeb Hameed and Rory Burns, all the pressure in the world, especially for Hameed after that long time in the wilderness, coming into that test at Lords and getting a first ball duck. The amount that would be playing in your head, you know, the head noise that you'd have after 4 or 5 years out of a side and then you face one ball and then didn't do much in the second innings either. Massive confidence booster for him with 68 and Burns with 61. They both succumb early on day 2 to quite good balls, actually. Both lost their poles to Jadeja and Shami. And then the man recalled into the side to bat 3, David Milan. He rewarded the selectors with a really nice 70. His cover driving and cut shots were immaculate, but the day belonged to Joe Root. Watching the game, every few minutes you'd hear the crowd, Root, 3 consecutive tons, and it was a quick fire 121, striking at about 80, so can really score some runs quickly. And boys, what do we have to think about the form that he's in? He's really putting this side on his back, and the whole series has swung back into anyone's game. Whereas 2 days ago we were talking about India taking this series quite comfortably.
Yeah, well, we made those 2 points. They managed to hit both of them in this match early on, at least. We're essentially at the halfway point, with each still having innings to go. But if they can keep this is the game plan. This is the direction they need to go. Use what you've got. Use the climate. Use those weapons, and give Root the support he needs in the batting lineup, and they will score 400. So that's what they need to do. They've got now over 300 run lead coming into the start of day 3. What do you think they'll do now? Do you think they'll try to push that 300? Because India essentially need a bat for the next 2 days to even get this remotely close to, trying to probably draw this game out versus actually going for a win. Do you think, they bat much more today?
What they would have said to the English tailenders going in to bat in Sam Curran, Ollie Robinson and James Anderson, they would have said, boys, you've just been down to the Department of Motor Vehicles. We've printed out a license for you, and that license is to go swing. Who gives a fuck? If you add a few runs, good on you. Who cares? And let's get stuck into the Indian top order. Look, England should have this won really within the next day or 2.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it. I think they just need to remain consistent. Hopefully they can have a good bowling attack in the next innings, and then they just see it home with some good top order batting real quick.
The worst thing they could do is fall in a heap, lose their way. India hit 600 in the next 2 days, and then they've got to chase runs on day 3 to possibly draw this match out. So yeah.
And look, it's not impossible. They were showing for us Australian viewers in the lunch break of day 1. And I'd had PTSD from this. I'd managed to erase it from my memory, if you will. But in the 2019 Ashes, when Australia, I say we, like I was,
yeah, of course.
Australia, we skittled them for 67, I think, and should have had that game all wrapped up. And then the second innings, England go out and they're absolutely up shit creek, and Ben Stokes comes out with one of the gutsiest hundreds you ever see in your life. He took 50 balls to score his first 2 runs and then ends up winning the game for England. Do I think we see a repeat of that? No, probably a once in a 100-year occurrence that even happened 2 years ago. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but they'd need to go out there and bat for 2 days and, count their lucky stars. And you just don't see it happening, because the big difference in this one, the English boys were getting a lot of swing whereas the Indian bowlers were just relying off the seam, off the deck. They weren't hooping it like Anderson and Robinson and Overton were.
Well, I just checked it. The match has started on time. There was reports of slight drizzle because that was the only other concern it had, which could work against the English side, which is the English weather.
Even in the English weather, I think with this 3 days, they would need some kind of rain of Noah's Ark proportions to get a drawn result here. England should win this pretty comfortably, and we will wrap up with a separate video, say Sunday or Monday when this game does have a result.
Will do.
Yep.
So they've kicked off officially. 2 balls down, no runs so far, all wickets. Peps, West Indies and Pakistan.
Yeah, just quickly, we'll go through the second test over there in the West Indies. The Windies won the toss and elected to field. They got off to a dream start as well, taking 3 for just 2 via Kemo Roach and that young Jaden Seals, that 19-year-old quick that we need to keep an eye on because he's coming along very well. Babar Azam, of course, scored runs. He had 75. And Fawad Alam had 76. They steadied the ship with a 158-run partnership, but it was about 34 degrees and about 98% humidity in Kingston. So Fawad Alam actually retired hurt due to heat exhaustion before day 2 was completely washed out. He came back on day 3, made 124. Pakistan declare 9 for 302. The Windies then get skittled for 150. Shaheen Afridi, the main destroyer, 6 for 51. Pakistan go back out and they play for a result, which I really like to see. They kind of had to with the West Indies winning the first game. So they were aggressive. They just put 176 on the board. They declared, and the Windies, they got off to an okay start. They were 1 for 49 at stumps on day 4, but then that man Shaheen Afridi, he cleaned them up. He had 4 for 43 in the second innings, 10 for the match, and the series is drawn 1 apiece, no third game. So that's it, drawn series there in the West Indies between them and Pakistan.
There you go. And that'll be cricket, I think, for, well, at least for the next couple of days until we wrap up the India versus England series. I think that means we now need to move into the AFL, talk some AFL news before we talk about AFL Finals coming up. Well, I guess it was a great round, the last round of the season leading up to this.
Yeah, one of the better final rounds in any kind of footy code in recent memory. A lot of games going to the wire, a lot of jostling on the live ladder. The Hawks and Tigers had a draw, obviously no playoff implications for them, but it was their first draw since 1925, so nearly 100 years of history there between 2 massive Melbourne clubs. And that was the send-off. Alistair Clarkson, Sean Burgoyne, Basha Hooley, and Dave Asprey there. Jack Rewalt had the goal with about 2 seconds to go to end it in a draw. And it was Sean Burgoyne that was a bee's dick away from getting a finger on it and getting the win there for Hawthorn. But alas, no finals implications. Let's move on to some of the games that do have finals implications. Yeah, I
just want to make a point. I don't think enough people are making a point about the Tigers. No finals this year. They've just been bad and like they're hurt, they're banged up.
Well, they are
no Dusty, of course, for the last couple of months. So
we've spoken about it before on the Esky. That the side that they had, even with Dusty being out and a few other key injuries throughout the season, they're not that different from the side that won the comp last year. So I think they're a slightly older squad. They're just a year older, and then everyone else is sort of coming up. Look, it's the first time they've missed the finals in 5 years, I think, or 6 years. I think they'll be there and thereabouts back again next year. They've got some good kids coming through, and no finals for them this year, but next year I think they'll still be there or thereabouts. What about your boys, Sean, the Brisbane Lions?
Mm-hmm. Went right down to the wire. When I say it went right down to the wire, they did win by 38 points over the Eagles. What went right down to the wire was the points difference, essentially, that make sure that they would secure 4th spot. And Lincoln McCarthy behind in the last minute got the percentage home. The players didn't know.
The players didn't know. Yeah, so they had the live ladder, obviously, for the viewers.
The whole game, just on the bottom corner.
Yeah, viewers were all aware, but if you're out there, you barely know what the score is to the point, let alone where you are in a live ladder. So the Eagles have got a kick out, and the players are going mad, like setting up this zone. We got to score. They set up a zone, and Charlie Cameron gets the intercept, kicks a goal after the siren, and absolute scenes up there at the Gabba. How good are crowds at the footy, boys?
Oh, excellent. And watching the boys like so Harris Andrews, who didn't play in this, who was in the box, like he can go mental. Like he understood how much this meant to get into the top four, get that double chance essentially, in and out of it. So yeah, it was a great win for them. Jared Berry kicked three for one, and probably should have had four. Took a few kicking lessons from you, Peps.
I can give him a call. I know you've probably got him in your contacts list there, Sean, and I can offer him some advice for how to at least hit the post from straight in front, 25 metres out, because that last kick did resemble myself playing park footy here.
Yeah, just show him your highlight reel and say do the opposite of this, and you'll be right.
Yeah. Highlight is an unusual word. We can show him the film.
Yeah, showing the film. Anyway, but it's good return for him being injured for most of the year.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It adds an extra dimension to their midfield. So hopefully they can keep that current form rolling through the finals. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, and he's struggled with adductor problems, so common with AFL players with the amount of kicking involved. And one of those real pesky injuries, where you probably feel like you're okay, and then, you go for a run and you go for a kick and that groin pain comes back. So good to see him back in the side, and hopefully has a big impact for them in the finals. The Swans and Giants, the Sydney teams, they both win. Buddy kicked 6 last week, so he goes to 992 career goals. And he made a big deal of not caring about 1,000. He cares about a flag. And people I think need to take Sydney seriously. That they've been one of the form teams here at towards the end of the year, and they're storming home. They're 6th. They've got this big matchup, elimination game. It would have been great, if this game could have been in Sydney, but alas, the current COVID situation sees it move to Tasmania, which is great for the people of Tasmania. I think they were saying Buddy Franklin hasn't played in Tasmania for 8 years. So a massive opportunity for the fans to go see him. I was thinking, mate, not too much COVID in old Canberra. They could have it at the theatre at James Manuka Oval. We do have a few cases, so understood it going down to the Apple Isle. And then and the D's secured their first minor premiership with their win against the Geelong Cats, their first since 1964. Shout out to my old boy. That was the year he was born. So that's a fucking long time. The Cats blew a 44-point lead in this one, 6 goals to none in the final term, and it was big Max Gawn, the people's beard, kicking it. You love to see a ruckman kicking a goal after the siren to win a minor premiership. And talking of fans, that was in front of fucking no one. That would have been really nice to see for these long-suffering Demons fans in front of 90,000 at the G. But that's the world that we live in, isn't it, boys?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so that was last week. Into the week that emerged through the week. David Teague, there was a lot of umming and ahhing. Monday, it was pretty much like they're going to announce his sack. They came out, they said, the club will take the necessary time, rada. Essentially, the consensus was, can we get Clarko? He's been adamant to say no, he wants a break from coaching. He's accomplished everything that you can as a coach in the AFL. He wants to have a year off, have a gap year. He fucking can't go overseas anywhere, so I hope he enjoys, doing the grey nomad around Australia. And then the club came out today and sacked David Teague. Well, as non-Carlton fans, boys, what were your thoughts of this?
Well, definitely depends. Well, how many coaches they've gone through? How many great coaches have they gone through? Nothing's changed. What's the consistency, the constant denominator in that regards that's always there. The board, the front office.
Yep.
I've seen the jokes about, you sacked the last coach because he focused too much on defense. You got an offensive coach. You sacked him because he focused too much on offense, not enough on defense.
Yep.
So you can now hire a defensive coach, focus more on. He's going around in circles. Winning cures all. They haven't been winning, which obviously doesn't help. But maybe it's more of a front office problem, a board problem, and they needed to stay the course maybe another year or two so they could get to where they need to be. They've got good talent there by all accounts, and maybe they're one or two players away, and then they can push into that finals, and then that'll answer their problems. But yeah, I think a bit stiff here. I think Lions was the other one they were talking about as well. Like
Ross Lyon. Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah. All accounts seem to be pointing to him, the former Fremantle coach, to be the next coach of the Blues. I think your points there, Sean, about possibly not being a coaching issue. Maybe people are getting sick and tired of this board. Going through some of the comments on Carlton's social media pages, the fans seem to be echoing that sentiment. They're sick and tired of being treated like this. And Teague, and to his credit, I've been a big advocate for him all year. People have been calling for his head the back end of this season. His 50-game record, which is where he's unfortunately been sacked here after 50 games, it's better than Damien Hardwick and Alistair Clarkson's records after 50 games. You got to give a bloke a chance. They've got a reasonable list. You can argue injuries. Yeah, Marchbank missed the whole year. Charlie Curnow barely played. Mitch McGovern barely played. But they weren't any more hurt than other clubs were. But things take time, and I think that the general reaction from the Carlton faithful is Teague has been absolutely robbed here of an opportunity to take a reasonable list to the finals and possibly. They pulled the pin prematurely.
It is a hard one. Like, I hate to cross codes and stuff, but with my Tampa Bay, if we've seen that the last almost a decade now, just a changeover and churn of just head coaches one after another. After one or two,
look at the Browns
semi-successfuls. Yeah, like it's hard for a team to keep consistent when you do have a head coach like that. When you chop and change your head coach every now and again as well. So whether Teague could have used another couple of years to build a team to be successful, it's hard to say because you also look at a lot of the head coaches that Tampa Bay have had. They're not coaching in the NFL anymore either. So do you call it early? Or do you keep on pressing on and hope that something gets better? Well,
to use that analogy, they did replace that with Bruce Arians, who's a pretty well-known coach. So maybe that's what they need to go out there and replace him with a big name, essentially. But then they had Nick Malthouse there not that long ago, so you can't get much bigger names than that.
One of the biggest names in coaching, and he wasn't able to turn around. Granted, that may be proving our point because Mick had a long stint at the club compared to Teague. So perhaps it is some kind of club culture issue rather than the coach. I hate to make this analogy, boys, but I will. It reminds me a lot of politicians. It's always the short term. I need to get re-elected. Rah, rah, rah. What can I do come election day? Rather than actually thinking long term and trying to nut out some long term progress, like perhaps China under Xi Jinping. Long established. You're not losing your job anytime soon. You've got ability for growth. I hate that analogy, but I think it maybe rings true here.
So essentially what you're saying is Dave Teague should become the board himself so he can't vote himself out.
That's right. The CCP, the Carlton Communist Party.
Well, back to Monk's point, some of those head coaches that have gone into those places and actually been successful took over more of the front office and took more of a role in that, have more say so they could protect themselves. But maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see who they hire and how much clout he has across the entire organisation.
Yeah, as a Carlton fan, it's a lot of same shit, different year kind of thing. You know, maybe get your hopes up a little bit, and then quite disappointing. But look, we've got a few All Australians. We'll get to that in a second. They've got the list here to do well. So hopefully, you know, start again fresh in 2022 with a new coach, whether that being Ross Lyon or someone else, and see how they go.
So the other bit of news that came out was the ongoing talk about, is it viable to add an extra team in the AFL, especially in Tasmania? Well, the Tasmanian franchise, that's the one they're kind of picking. They're playing a lot of games down there this year. Of course, I think they've had more games this year because it's a place with less COVID than Victoria is. So that does help their chances. But
if this pen stays around for 20 years, I think our Tasmanian team's very, very viable.
Maybe
so
more than just
the AFL
one.
Commission must agree on an expansion bid, and 12 of the 18 clubs must sign off on it. It has to be financially viable. That seems to be the big question, because I guess what's it'd have to be a Hobart team, I'm assuming. And what's the population of Hobart?
Hobart, off the top of my head, is about 250, and then all of Tasmania is about 500.
Yeah. Which is same as Canberra, so it's hard.
But yeah, it's tiny. That's a population wise, that is a very, very small market. The thing is that they are footy mad down there, and we have spoken in previous episodes. If you were to put your best 22 Tasmanian-born footballers out on the field as an AFL side, it'd be a pretty fucking handy side.
So we'll talk about the point here in a minute about what the NRL's doing. Do you think this is more on the cards, though, because of what the NRL is doing? As in, the NRL's here talking about expansion, trying to build news. You know how these leagues like to compete with each other. Is this the AFL saying, oh, we're still considering that Tasmania thing, just so that we're also considering expansion, to keep the direct competition up between competitions?
It's an interesting point of view. They do compete, obviously. The Ron Barassi line, it separates the south and the west of Australia with the north and the east. Rugby league versus AFL, it's a tale that's 150 years old. I don't know if it's just smoke to just try and say, oh, the NRL's looking at expanding, we're looking at expanding. The AFL's been looking at a Tasmanian option for many years now, and they've sort of been grooming it with these 6 games a year with 3 between North and 3 between Hawthorn being played in Tasmania to try and get a try before you buy kind of preview. I think it goes a bit further than that. I think they are serious about expansion down into the Apple Isle. The question does remain, though: do they have the numbers there to fill out a Bellarine Oval or a University of Tasmania Oval at Launceston week in, week out with the population? Look,
it might depend on they might need to change some of that layout for that stadium. If you focus on a 20 to 25,000, but you get them packed in really close to the ground, you can create the atmosphere that you need. Like you use the stadium mechanics on the design of the architecture of that to actually emphasize what the game is. So then you don't have to worry about trying to get 50,000 there to get that same sort of atmosphere.
For sure, but 25 in a packed Bellarine, that's you're cheering. You guys are well, but you guys, let's cross codes again. Let's go to cricket and the Hobart Hurricanes, which will often sell out a Bellarine Oval. It's a mad atmosphere down there, and I think Aussie rules footy is the number 1 code down there by it's daylight second. I think, from a crowd perspective, perhaps it is viable. And you look at the Gold Coast Suns, the AFL has done everything to try and prop them up, and they haven't made the finals in 10 years. They've got the lowest membership rate in the AFL, and they've really struggled. And maybe that goes to the Gold Coast. We've spoken about it before, how it's a bit of a football code graveyard. the A-League has been and packed up. You know, the Titans, they really need some results. They kind of struggle a little bit in terms of support base in the league.
It's more the culture of that place, I'd say. Because on the flip side, you look at the Giants in Sydney West. You know, they've made finals of 5 of the 10 years they've been in. They've made a grand final, got 30K-ish members, actually starting to make some money. They've got some really good players on there. They're actually competitive.
For membership, the Giants are starting to nip at the heels of the lower Victorian clubs, so like a Kangaroos or even a Bulldogs. The Giants aren't far off for membership numbers.
Yeah, but it is a different situation when you've got, what are they up to now? 9 mil for Sydney total population, as a guess?
Oh no. Greater Sydney's about 5.5.
I meant like as in between the two. The Sydney teams, the Sydney population, it's shared between the two teams, essentially.
Yeah.
So you divide that a half, but that's still a much bigger number than what Tasmania is.
For sure. Yeah. But as well, league and union are big in New South Wales. That's going to chew into your market, whereas Tasmania is more AFL. I think the whole population of New South Wales is about 8. So Sydney's about 5.5. But yeah, you're right. It's you know, even though it's not the number one code, it's a big city. It's a big market. Anyways, time will tell. This is they've been speaking about it for ages, so we'll see what happens. I'm sure nothing happens in the coming weeks that will be worth reporting on. It's just it is, you know, they're actually in talks about it possibly happening.
You want to talk about the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, a few inductees into the Hall of Fame. Nathan Burke, 300 gamer for St Kilda. He had the record, actually, the Saints record when he retired. That got overtaken by Robert Harvey not long after he retired. 3 times St Kilda best and fairest, and current coach of the AFLW team for the Bulldogs. He's in there. And Chris Judd, this was like a Peyton Manning kind of situation. As soon as you're eligible, you're in. 279 AFL games, 2006 premiership with the West Coast Eagles, dual Brownlow medalist. He's straight in. Our Lord and Saviour at Carlton, except not really saving us, but, you know, a really good footy player. Chris Judd, straight into the Hall of Fame. And then a one that goes back a little bit, Robert Wiley. He was a WA NFL player back in those days, which is now the Waffle. 2 premierships and 8 best and fairest with Perth. Pretty hard to win 1 or 2 of those. If anyone's, you know, listening that's played club footy, to win 2 BNFs down at your local is pretty difficult. To win 8 in the Waffle, unreal. And he also he was part of the Richmond Premiership side in 1980, 1986 All Australian. And I like this little anecdote. His mum used to offer him 10 cents each goal as a junior. And back in those days, a little bit more money than 10 cents is these days. And he got a habit. He got a taste for the plutter and started kicking goals for fun. So he was a midfielder that pushed forward and had his rest in the forward pocket and would just snag sausage rolls. And once kicked 10 in a VFL game as a small forward. So congrats to you, Robert Wiley, into the Hall of Fame. And then I suppose the big story was Debbie Lee, the first woman ever inducted into the AFL Hall of Fame. Absolute pioneer of the women's game. 5 times. I was speaking about how hard it is to be, you know, a BNF 2 times at your local. 5 times VFL W, best and fairest, and monumental into developing the women's AFL that we see today. And then 2 deceased Hall of Fame members were updated to legend status. Merv McIntosh, who played for Perth in the 40s and 50s, and Jack Oatley, who played in the Sandful, but not so much his playing career as his coaching career that was commended here. He coached 777 games in the Sandful over nearly a 40-year career, 10 premierships. Deserves to be a legend. So congrats to all.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely. An excellent list getting in there and getting inducted. So thanks for the run through, Peps. Another big, I guess, announcement for the All Australians. The final 22 got named. Monks, do you have the list there for us? I think we chatted during the week with this. Cam Guthrie was probably the biggest snub out of this list.
Yeah, for him not to even make the 40-man squad, I don't know whose toes he stepped on or whose wife he slept with, because I would have thought Cam Guthrie was a shoo-in at least for the squad. So for mine, possibly the biggest snubbing. But Monks, if you wouldn't mind, have you got that final 22 there available?
Yeah, I'll run through the final 22. So we'll start off in the back lineup. So we had from Melbourne, we had Jack Lever and Stephen May. From Geelong, we had Tom Stewart. Brisbane, we had Daniel Richard. Port Adelaide, Alaire Alaire. And then Bailey Dale from the Western Bulldogs. And then moving into midfield, we had, again from Melbourne, Max Gawn and Clayton Oliver. Jack McRae from the Bulldogs. Ollie Wines from Port Adelaide. Sam Walsh from Carlton. And Zach Merritt from Essendon. And in our forwards, we had Marcus Bontempelli from the Bulldogs again. Tom Hawkins from Geelong. Christian Petrarca from Melbourne. Toby Green from the Giants, Harry Mackay from Carlton, and Tom Papley from Sydney. And for the
Mackay, Monks.
Mackay, I did. There we go. It's got to be one or the other.
Back the gut.
That's it.
Hey, and don't feel bad. I was watching Carlton a few weeks ago, and the great Eddie Maguire was getting it wrong. So
I'll take that as a compliment. And on the interchange, we had Darcy Parish from Essendon, Nick Naitanui out from the Eagles, and then Took Miller and Jack Steele as well.
Yeah, I suppose not too many arguments from that final 22. As a Carlton, possibly one-eyed fan here, a little bit of noise around Jacob Wiedering missing out. Consistently one of the best fullbacks getting around, and then often goes to the opposition's best key forward and shut out a lot of big names this year. I suppose the selectors maybe rewarded club success as well as individual prowess, going with Steve May and Jake Lever, who have been unbelievable for the Ds, and then Alaire Alaire, possibly the buy of the year for Port Adelaide. That was the three key defenders they went with from clubs that finished first and second. I suppose you can't argue too much there with Weeders missing out. As a blue bagger, really nice to see Sammy Walsh and that man Harry Mackay make it in to that final 22. And they really rewarded club success with 5 Demons and 3 Bulldogs. And a handful of Port Adelaide and Geelong players also making it.
Did they announce a captain? Was it Max Gawn?
I think it's Max Gawn. Yeah, Monks, if you wouldn't mind just chasing that one up, but I'm fairly sure that Big Max got the captaincy there. And the Brisbane Lions players to make it, I think Dan Rich and Charlie Cameron. Again, perhaps an argument for Jared Lyons being snubbed. He's been excellent this year, but always hard as a midfielder.
The midfield's stacked. What did you say? Yeah, Steely and Miller on the bench. So
that's right. Took Miller, who I think had 14 games straight with 30 possessions coming off the bench. So pretty hard to crack into it. And as well, that they name Petrarca and Bontempelli as half forwards because they go forward for a touch, but essentially played most of the game in the midfield. So pretty hard to crack into that side as a midfielder. Look, I was pretty happy with the 22. I think the biggest travesty was Cam Guthrie not making the 40.
Yeah, that's it. So Gawn is captain and Bontempelli was named vice captain. Yeah.
All right, let's get into some. Sorry.
I was just going to say it'd be nice if another country actually played this beautiful game that we love. They did do the international rules a little bit with Ireland with a round ball, but imagine seeing that team go out and play against someone. Jeez, you'd oh mate, you could name a second best 22, and I think that team would have them pretty handily covered.
Oh, easy. I think what was it? China and the US were the last kind of two locations they tried to play some games in. Taking international. Good luck.
The Chinese team would be too good. Yao Ming might have to come out of retirement to ruck against Big Max.
Anyway, let's talk about some finals footy. So Yeah. So first game, Port Adelaide, second overall, taking on the Geelong Cats, third overall tonight at the Adelaide Oval. Do you have a current score for me there, James? Do you want me to?
Putting me on the pressure here.
So I can check it.
I've
17
got it here. Yeah. Power up by 11.
Yep.
And we're in the second quarter.
Yeah, just started the second quarter. So yeah, the Dogs, their loss last week gave Port the opportunity to jump into second spot here, and Port had a massive second half comeback against the Dogs, so they leapfrogged them to jump into second, and then we'll get to it. Well, we already spoke about it. The Dogs actually dropping out of the top four with Brisbane's win against West Coast. It's Tom Hawkins' 300th tonight. Massive milestone for the big full forward. Won't have his family present due to the South Australian COVID restrictions. He becomes only the sixth Geelong Cat to play 300 in that club's, over 120 years history. So nothing to sneeze at there, playing 300 at the Cattery. These two teams played back in round 13, where the Cats were victors by 21 points. Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins combined for 9 goals in that one. Different story, though, tonight, boys. Adelaide Oval, the home ground advantage for Port plays a massive part, you'd think. What are our tips? I went with Port, given the fact that it's in Adelaide. I think that's a massive advantage for them.
I thought I'd picked Port as well, purely because they were second and Geelong were third. And you know what Port likes to do to teams below them? It is beat them. But looking at my tips...
Good point there, Sean. I hadn't considered that, but good point.
Yeah. Yep. Well, they did it last week. That was my purely the reason for picking them, and they did it. So, but looking at my tips, I picked Geelong. So there you go. I'm on Geelong.
Well, it's close. We'll keep an eye out throughout the podcast.
I don't know who put those tips in. Obviously, it was me. So, past Sean is an absolute dickhead. Current Sean is ruling those decisions. Let's see how maybe feels about it.
You were a crook this week. You smacked 28 schooners and did your tips, and then forgot which teams you picked.
Anyway,
Monks,
that's it.
You'll have the deciding
here,
and the odds if you wouldn't. Well, actually, it's live. I wouldn't bother about the odds.
Yeah, I won't bother about the odds. I might be even more of a dickhead than you, Sean, because I forgot to put my tips in.
Oh, a great team.
But hand on heart, I was probably going to go for Geelong anyway. But yeah.
Family connection there. Hey, Jim, the old man, a massive Cats fan. So
massive Cats fan. So
he'll be glued to the telly right now and probably yelling a few expletives. Let's be honest.
Just quite possibly. And the way it's shaping up at the moment, it looks like my tip's going to be going towards Geelong anyway. So hopefully I can turn the tide in the second half.
Yeah, I'm hoping our podcast is done by the fourth quarter. So
that's
it. On that note, let's roll through to the Battle of the Bridge. Third time that these two teams have faced each other in a final. That's Sydney and GWS. The first time at the University of Tasmania Stadium down there in Launceston. Both these sides have finished the season really well, with the Swans winning 7 of their last 8 and the Giants winning 4 of their last 5. They played each other back in round 18. Swans 26-point winners there. Buddy and Papley kicking 4 each. This is a hard one for mine. I think Sydney are legitimate chances to go far this September. We'll get to the league in a minute when we talk about the NRL. I think there's more teams that could possibly win the AFL this year than the NRL, and it's a far wider consideration for teams that could possibly win it. And I wouldn't write Sydney off. It's hard to win it from sixth. You got to play every week. You don't get any second chances. But I like what they're doing. I've gone Sydney here.
Yeah, I picked Sydney as well because the 1,000 might not mean that much to Buddy, but I guarantee you it probably means a lot to his other teammates to give him the opportunity to get that. He might not be able to do it in this game, so they need to win this game so they get another one where he will probably then definitely have a chance to hit the 1,000.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sean, I like that thinking. If they get to a grand final, guess who kicks 1,000 goals?
Yeah, definitely. So
if it's not going through his head, which is possibly what you say to the media, of course you're thinking about it. But I'm sure that the midfielders that deliver that ball into him are thinking about it. They'd want two things: to win a comp and for Buddy to kick 1,000 goals. I like where your head's at.
Yeah. So that's why I picked Sydney. Once.
Yep. I picked Sydney as well. It's a tough one to pick, but I guess they are going into the match favourites. So going straight to the odds, Sydney favourites $1.70. GWS are out at $2.16 at the moment. The line is only 5.5 at the moment. So you're definitely shaping up to be a very close match.
Yeah, and all three of us have got on Sydney here. It's an elimination game, and GWS, as I mentioned, have been trending in the right direction. They had a few guys make that All-Australian squad in the likes of Hopper and Kelly. Their midfield can match it with the best of them. Whilst those blokes didn't make the final 22, they've got a really red hot midfield. My concern about GWS, the loss of Jeremy Cameron at the start of the season to Geelong. They've got Toby Green, one of the best small forwards in the league, but I'm not sure if they're big targets in Himmelberg and Perryman can match it at this elite level. But time will tell. I'm really looking forward to this game tomorrow afternoon. It should be close. Should be a cracker.
That's it. And just in case, if anyone's wondering, to score 6 or more goals, Buddy is at $21.
What's 8? What's to get 1,000 tomorrow?
I can't find the market for that. 6 or more was the best I could find. So
$21.
I'm sure there's someone out there for it.
Call your own personal bookie.
That's it.
Shout out to Joel Ridge Franklin if you're listening. I'm sure he's.
Yeah, he would have a couple of dollars on it already.
Yeah, it's his whole favourite list. Is just cookies.
That's it. So next up, we've got Melbourne and v Brisbane over at Adelaide.
Mm-hmm. As mentioned, the D's were minor premiers, first time in 57 years. Of course, have to play in Adelaide because of the pandemic. Last played in round 12. The D's winning that 22 points. Sorry, and they were the winners. I will say I think the Lions have come a long way since then. Since started the middle point of the year, they've got real hot, then get cold for a bit, and then they've started to heat back up again. I'm overly biased, so I have backed the Lions in this.
I'm glad you did. No Judas.
Yeah, no Judas here.
It's funny you mentioned the hot and cold. I think when they played Melbourne last time, that was when they were starting to build into that hot streak. And then sort of rounds like 16, 17, 18, 19 just went through this streak where you're like, these guys are pretenders. What's going on here? And then the last month have come back to their early season form and looked really good. It's weird that, the neutral venue here has to play into it. The fact that they don't have to go down to Melbourne, you'd think is probably a good thing for Brisbane, and very unfortunate for Melbourne Demons fans that have waited this long for them to finish first. Game goes to Adelaide, it will be, all reports, 15 to 20,000 allowed in there. So not like a game, under normal circumstances, you might have 100,000 in the G and 85,000 of them wearing red and blue. So you'd think, that advantage kind of levels the playing field a little bit.
Yeah. And my final point on this is we've talked about windows. Like Brisbane are in the middle of their window at the moment. The D's window is probably just opened. Like they're at the start of their window and hoping they'll have a couple more chances in the coming years. But in the Lions, you got to start thinking about it. You got to start capitalising on where they are and how they're finished. Because they maybe, depending what happens, depending on the squad, injuries, age, etc., whatever. You've got this year, maybe you got next year. Then thinking, what about the year after that? Guys start getting older, moving on. You got to capitalise where you can while you're in your window. And they're right in the middle of this.
Well, at Brisbane, their captain Zorko, he's about 33. He's starting to get on a little bit. Jared Lyons is in great form, but starting to age a little bit. Charlie Cameron's probably in his late 20s. He's still got a bit to go. And then there's a big drop down to a lot of these young guys, your McLuggages, your Berries. Harris Andrews is still very young. There maybe is that sort of gap with these guys that are right in their prime. So perhaps they are, in the next few years, they will lose some of those veteran guys. They'll still have these young guys coming through. But I think you're right there, Sean. I think this is a really good opportunity this year. And we've seen the last few years of them being so close but so far. I think it's a really good opportunity for them to pull the trigger, and they may drop off a touch in coming years.
Yeah. Well, those younger guys need to transition into those veterans and take up those positions and actually lead the squad, and then also bring in the young fellas. Like that's all the management of transitioning of culture and dynasty building, essentially.
For sure.
Did you guys see Mitch Robinson's re-signing speech today? He got in front of the boys and made it look like he was retiring. But it was just like, I'm resigned. So they all got melted.
I'm fucking leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan Belfort, if you will. How old is he would be early 30s.
Yeah, I'd say so. He'd be in his 30s. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, good on him. Going around again, one of the harder-nosed wingers you'll see in the AFL. I've tipped the Melbourne Demons. Nothing against this Brisbane Lions team. I think they have come good at the right side. I think the neutral ground does play into the Lions' favour a touch, but I think from what I've seen, I think the D's just.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've gone to D's as well. I think you did sort of touch on it with the Swans and Buddy Franklin, but Charlie Cameron, it's his 150th game this weekend, so hopefully that brings a little motivation into the team to fire him up a little bit more and get the win over the D's. But I have gone D's. They are favourites at $1.70. Brisbane are $2.16, so exactly the same odds as the Sydney match. And we've got a line of
hit us with the line there.
Yeah, line again, exactly the same, 5.5.
That's testament, isn't it, to the state that the AFL's in at the moment, where anyone on their day can win. You've got the first team playing the fourth team, and first side is paying $1.70. Where you should be really for a finals game. We'll get to the NRL in a second. I guarantee you, when Melbourne plays that first game in the NRL finals in a few weeks, they'll be shorter than $1.70.
Yeah, and we talked about at the start of the year, we thought there was 4 AFL teams that could probably take it. Now we can say that 6 can definitely have a chance, and then 7 and 8 on their day could also beat some of these clubs and win games. So it's definitely an interesting final series upcoming.
Indeed. And speaking of 7 and 8 or 5 and 8, is the last game. Western Bulldogs and Essendon play 3:20 Sunday afternoon as well in Tasmania, in Launceston there. The Dogs, they've gone cold. They've lost 3 in a row, including to the Bombers in round 21. in that game, big 2-meter Peter Wright, he booted 7. And the usual suspects in Zach Merritt and Darcy Parish were the major ball winners for the Dons. Both play this high-scoring, free-flowing style of footy. The Dogs finished second for most points on the year behind your Brisbane Lions, Sean, and the Bombers finished 4th. Although down in Tasmania, perhaps with a bit of wind, that may affect the free-flowing nature of this game.
That's going to be my question.
It's the hardest one to pick.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. If they're playing these two free-flowing, high-scoring, high-powered offensive teams go to Tasmania, well, we usually score unders. It's like almost a guaranteed. Who then comes out of this in a gritty matchup?
I think the Bulldogs, and that's why I've tipped them. Obviously, a massive momentum slide, and that will be affecting their confidence, having lost the last 3 games and losing 1 to the team they're playing on Sunday in the Bombers. But I just think that these hard-nosed veterans in your Bontempellis, your McRae's, Trelaw, who's been a great addition for them, your Dunkleys, your Johannessons, these guys that have been there before. I think maybe the little bit of experience gets them home here. But as I did say, for mine, hardest to pick, and really would not be surprised with the Bombers doing a bit of an upset here and knocking off the 5th place Dogs.
Well, I've gone with the hot hand, and I picked the Bombers over the Dogs.
Yeah.
And to bounce the Dogs out. So there you go.
Geez, you'd hurt if you're a Western Bulldogs fan at Joseph Gray, if you're listening, to be so promising a month ago, and then just go bang, 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 and go out in straight sets in August, it'll still be in August. Yeah.
Monks?
That's it. Yeah. I've gone the Bombers. Like you said, they're hot at the moment. Bulldogs haven't been performing as well as a lot of people, I suppose, would expect them to be playing at the moment. So yeah, hopefully the Bombers can put on some points. It's going to be a long road to the grand final, but this is where it starts for us, and hopefully we continue down that road.
Hang on, grand final.
Yeah, I'm talking grand final.
The Western Bulldogs obviously in 2016 won it from 7. So to get there is one thing. To win it, they would have to put their names in the record books to be the first ever to win from 8. Have you got the odds there, Monks? It's quite close, I think.
Close, but not as close as the other games. So Dogs are favourites at $1.51 at the moment. Essendon are out at $2.57. And we do have a line that's pushed out to 10.5.
Very interesting. Anyways, finals footy's here, boys.
Exciting.
We've been covering both the AFL and NRL all year. It's great to see some games that really, really mean a lot. And lockdown here, not much else to do. I'll definitely have an eye on all of these games with intent.
Yes, that'll be AFL for this week. Just a quick note in the cricket, England are all out for 432. Did start raining, but they have resumed. They did have a lead of 354. That is now down to 348. India are 6-0 so far.
Or 9 for 6 in an Australian way. Hey, the fucking Poms doing it the reverse way. They're bloody weird bastards, aren't they? Don't get me.
Little bit back.
Let's talk about some NRL.
Yeah, let's talk about some NRL, and I think we should finish off the expansion talk that we started before. So there's been 3 clubs that all met with the expansion committee the NRL had set up. There's the Brisbane Firehawks, the Redcliffe Dolphins, and the Brisbane Jets. Dolphins surprisingly meant to be the favourites, and the last chat was the Firehawks and the Jets were actually going to merge together to create some massive consortium, trying to then push for Wayne Bennett as the head coach and Munster as a foundational player in 2023, I believe. That's when he comes off contract.
Yeah. And that really only came out of today, I think, that those two teams those two bids had talked to each other to try and get, a consortium put together to face off against the most financially well-off Redcliffe Dolphins.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on this? Because I mentioned it before. Is this AFL trying to keep themselves in the news against NRL? I actually think the answer to that is the flip of that. Because my thoughts on, I think the AFL's easily winning this code war, having played footy across every state of this country, and the NRL, now need to play catch up and now needing to generate interest, generate revenue, etc. The hand may be forced a little bit that, hey, we need to expand. Let's expand into the one place where we have the biggest membership and the biggest following, Brisbane, Southeast Queensland, and put a team there. So that's why these 3 bids, of course, have come from that area. What are your boys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, much the same as my answer to the AFL thinking about possible expansion. Yes, it is a competition. Yes, if one makes some news, the other might follow suit. But I think both are looking seriously at expanding. And Brisbane, you've got the supporter base, you've got the interest in rugby league to pursue an extra side. And what better time to do it than when the Broncos are sucking balls?
Yeah.
Like if
Get a
there's
few
any
fans
time
jumping
where you might be able to throw a side in and get some interest from some fed up Broncos fans or ex Broncos fans, it's now. If you did this, say, 14 years ago when Brisbane were dominant, they'd be top 4 every year, I think you'd get laughed out the room. But I think now is a really good time. Participation in Southeast Queensland Rugby League is amongst the highest in the country. You talk to anyone from Brisbane or the surrounding areas, they're rugby league mad. I think it makes sense if you want to expand, to try and do it here in Southeast Queensland and in the greater Brisbane area. I suppose, and I'll put it to you boys now, we've spoken about it before, with the big discrepancies between the good sides and the bad sides in the NRL, do we think the talent pool is there for expansion to occur?
If they still all the good Brisbane players, like all the other clubs have been doing this year, they might get some talent. So you got all the old Broncos.
and they're better than the new Broncos, apparently. You can look at the ladder, the map backs that up.
True.
That's it. It is a tough question because obviously you don't want to cause an even greater divide between those top tier teams and everyone else. Whether you then have to start playing around with the salary cap a little bit more, or like how do you bring
benefits are they going to get to come in? Because there's no draft like that. There's kind of no really support.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that's it. If you've got no benefits to draw some of your marquee players from, say, the Storm up to Redcliffe, then what else can you do? And the salary cap's probably the only other thing that you can play around with to force teams to have to cut players, move players around. Like you saw it with Messi and in the soccer, like they couldn't afford him, so he has to go. Like you obviously want to keep him on your team, but if you can't afford him, you can't afford him. So you need to play around with the salary cap to make something like this work.
Yes and no, because money talks, and your Redcliffe Dolphins apparently have got $100 million in assets ready to go. They've got 40,000 members of their leagues club, which would already put them above some of the lower supported clubs in terms of membership. I think that the lack of talent here in the NRL is it comes down to 2 things. A, there's a lack of premier coaches and halves. I think that's apparent. If you can get a good coach and a good half, I think you can build around that. You can build a forward pack. You can build outside backs around that, and perhaps fullbacks goes into that conversation. And B, the other thing other thing to consider here is the depth. With the Roosters are a prime example that depth is a massive thing. The Roosters reserve grade side has gone out and is running fourth this year. You can't tell me that there's a lack of guys available. It's where they're playing. I'm sure if Melbourne sent out their reserve grade side every week, they'd be a top 4 side too.
They're talking about where do we play Nico Hines? Like we don't have a spot for him.
Literally, like one of the guys that's been top 5, top 10 guys in the league this year. With Pappenhausen coming back, they might not be able to fit him into the 17. I think the talent is here. Where it is and who gets them to put their pen to paper, I think that's the problem more so than an actual lack in depth and obviously coaching spine very important.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. So it'll be interesting to see whom they decide, whether they make a decision. I kind of think the league probably has to. Their hands forced a little bit that, hey, we need to be generating money and we need to generate interest. If the Redcliffe Dolphins have got $100 million lying around, they'll be like, yeah, we'll take some of that. We'll definitely get a registration fee and we'll bring you in. But do you think a 17 team comp makes sense? Do you think?
No, I think you have to think about going to 18 after that, and I think probably the most viable option there is New Zealand, trying to get a second Kiwi side. Time will tell. Maybe this is just a bunch of hoopla, and we'll see what happens out of it. The other thing that we haven't mentioned with Redcliffe, and I don't know how it will work with Q Cup, but trying to buy into the Sunshine Coast market. So they're proposing to have some games at Moreton Daily Stadium there, which we've seen. Awesome. The Leagues Club backs onto it, an unreal beer garden and bistro to watch the game. If they could throw a few more, seats around that and make it into a really nice suburban ground. But if they were able to tap into that Sunshine Coast market as well and make it, sort of a Moreton Bay or North Brisbane Sunshine Coast kind of team, you'd think that the backing and support is there. And the counter argument goes for Ipswich and if they do merge with the Firehawks, that Western corridor that they talk about, between Brisbane and Toowoomba and the Darling Towns, rugby league mad, heartland, a lot of people there, and Ipswich is staged for high population growth. I think the market's there. It's just whoever's going to come up with the money. And to be honest, the way that Volandis runs things, I think it wouldn't be surprising in the next few years where we're talking about one of these extra teams.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. So some quick other notes. Speaking of money, of course, Big Mal, unfortunately, since there's no international footy, they're talking about giving him a significant pay cut. Gets about $450K to be the Australian coach. That could go down to $125K. So no World Cup this year as well, so maybe they'll push that out until next year, and then when that happens, he'll get his pay. He'll come back up. But at the moment, it looks like a big pay cut. There was chat during the week about rule changes to kicking the ball out and being a 7 again, which again another stupid idea. Rule changes. There's some chat that we're going to even try and trial that this week, and I was just, oh my god, why are you making rule changes in round 20?
This goes back to the
finals.
This goes back to the politicians trying to get re-elected next fucking election next week. You need to think about the long-term picture here, guys. We can't be fucking around with rules 2 weeks out from the finals. We like both sports. We like the AFL, we like the NRL, and we like foreign codes. And all this, every single week trying to tinker with it, it's beyond a joke. Fuck off. Like if you want to implement something like this, do it in a trial game. Do it in a New South Wales Cup season. We've spoken ad nauseum about that.
We've been calling it the bumhole league since round 12, and it has nothing to improve on it. So.
They just come up with this shit, and you're like, Come on, man. Like you're coming into finals. There should be enough interest and rhetoric around can anyone beat Melbourne or will they go on to be, the most successful, club season ever seen. That should be enough interest rather than, should we bring in this fucking moronic rule? That's just, you can see what they're trying to do. Let's just try and bring in more fatigue. Let's try and get more points. Oh, mate,
that's it.
That's enough.
More points.
For me. I hope we don't hear anything about this supposed rule change for a while.
Well, last thing I'm going to say about that.
So.
Last thing I'm going to say about that is there's about 6 teams vying for that 8th spot in the finals. Imagine if you get into the 8 or get out of the 8 based on a rule change like this 2 weeks out.
Look, to be honest, give them credit. I don't think it would be implemented this week. I think they've got more sense than that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about it in the preseason next year.
Here's a question for you. Of those, I think there's only now 3 teams. Oh, there's other.
Well, what happened in the Raiders Warriors? Because
I'll get to that in a minute. How many games do you think the 8th place team have won?
8 maybe.
Yeah, they've won 9 currently. 9 from 22, and you make finals.
Yeah, it's top heavy, man. It's very top heavy this year in the NRL. And when we preview this week's games, we'll discuss. You may as well put your house on a few of these teams winning 13 plus. It's a non-factor.
So you want some results? So, of course, the game last night was Newcastle Gold Coast, which ended up being a great game. Newcastle won 15-14. Mitch Pearce, I think, kicked a field goal right at the end to give them the lead, which then cements themselves at 7. They're 3 games clear of the guys in 8th. The Warriors were up 16-0 against the Raiders. The Raiders won 28-16.
Wow. Right.
So they ran away.
For the milk.
Yeah. You got here Matt Frawley playing number 7. When he starts as number 7 for the Raiders, he has not lost a game yet. So
really,
yeah, he keeps winning because he came off the bench last week. They lost, but he didn't start. So every time he starts for the Raiders, they win. Yeah, there's a bit of that there. But they, I think, looking at the ladder, are still outside looking in.
They should be live ladder. They should be 8th, but then when the other games come through, they might drop out. But they've kept their hopes alive, and the Warriors' mathematical chance is now gone.
Yes. Yeah. So they're on 22 with the Gold Coast losing. They're now on 20, so they've dropped down. Sharks are on 22 as well, but they still have to play. On the flip side, Roosters and Souths. Souths are currently winning that game 26-6, I think it was 24-6.
24.
At half. So,
man, you won't hear this out of a Dragons fan too much, but fuck, I actually feel sorry for the Chooks. That I'll send you boys a 13 blokes that was unavailable for this game. By position. Whether it be through season-ending injury, injury-induced retirement, suspension. The team that I sent you, I think Fox League shared it, is close to a premiership-winning side. So the fact that they're still, 4th and will have an impact in finals is a testament to what they're doing over there in Bondi. South, Josh Mansour, he's probably done for the year with that MCL that we saw last year, depending on how deep they go come finals.
He's back for them, and he did score the first try after 4 minutes.
There you go. There you go.
4 for the year and still the leader. I know he had 25. It's 2 ahead of Adokar.
What did we find was the NRL era record? Was it 27?
I believe so. It was just under 30.
We have looked at it before. Monks, if you wouldn't mind just chasing that up, the NRL era record is definitely in danger here with Johnson and Adokar having a sniff here. Boys, you'd think the way that the Roosters are looking with their injuries that they can't win a comp this year. It's probably a 4-horse race, and really it's can Manly, Penrith, and Souths beat Melbourne on their day?
Yeah, agree.
That's it. Yeah.
So who'd you boys tip? I actually picked Newcastle, Canberra, and Souths, so I'm looking good at the moment. What about you, lads?
I tipped the Titans on Thursday night. I was only a point off. I thought playing for their season that they actually went with a different spine combination in dropping Ash Taylor, bringing in young Jaden Campbell. I thought that might have given him a little bit of flair. Wasn't far off, so I missed my tip there. And then, I tipped the Milk and South.
Yeah, I shot myself in the foot. I didn't put my tip in, so I've gone Titans.
Wow.
I know.
Did you get tonight, though?
I did get tonight. I realized last night, and I don't know how I didn't get my AFL tips in, to be honest, yesterday, but I realized last night, just as the game started, that I hadn't put my tips in. So unfortunately going on Titans there. I did go with the Raiders, and it's currently with the with Souths as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that NRL era. Actually, this is a regular season record of regular season record of 25 tries held by Nathan Blacklock.
That's right. That's right. We had discussed that on the Esky before. Former St George legend there in Nathan Blacklock. So with that try, Johnson should go to 25 with a game in hand next week.
Yeah, he shares that with Reece Wesser and Brett Morris. Sorry.
Right.
Yep.
So 3-1 tie, and you'd imagine with a game and a half to go, Alex Johnson's going to get his mitts on that record.
Well, he's got Adokar right behind him as well. So
true.
Both could
something to consider. And the way Parramatta's defending at the moment, we'll get to that in a sec. Maybe the Fox will also be there or thereabouts. Boys, I think we rolled through these two first games on Saturday pretty quickly. My Dragons and Monk's Dragons go up against the North Queensland Cowboys. The battle of two clubs on pretty reasonable losing streaks. The Dragons have lost 6 on the trot, and the Cowboys 10 in a row. I remember their last win because I had a little win on the punt on it. It was that Val Holmes field goal from over 40 metres, a 2-pointer against the Warriors. It was in May, boys. Cast your minds back to May.
It's a fucking long season.
I don't think there was a case of coronavirus in Australia. I think there was full crowds at every game. It was like a different world.
Completely different time. Yeah.
Pick the Dragons.
I picked the Dragons. They're favourites. They got Freddie Lussick, who's been loaned out by the Roosters. Again, testament to their depth that they can be as busted up as they are, and they're still loaning us a hooker, which is good because we've got no Andrew McCulloch or Ben Hunt available. So that actually gives us a 9. Josh Maguire was playing 9 last week. I am worried about this because the Cowboys have Jason Taumalolo back. They've got Murray Tulangi, Kyle Felt back, and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. He come back last week. He'll play 1. I've gone with the Dragons just because I support them, but I'm not that confident. And also, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure who Monk's going to pick, so I'm going to put the curse on him. And I picked him as well. Because this will be one game the Cowboys win, just to spite you for the rest of the season. Because they haven't won a game since Barbecue at Vorney's. So
yeah, barbecue at Vorney's, boys. I hope those steaks were good.
Yeah, so I picked the Dragons, but now I think about it, this will be the game the Cowboys win to finish their season off. So.
I'm getting big vibes from that, Sean, but I didn't want to Judas my own side. So, Monks, I imagine we've put an Esky curse on here.
We have. Is that the first for tonight as well?
Oh, well, this is
games that are already been playing. Yeah,
this is the Dragons.
True. I put the curse on them. They are favourites leading into the match. $1.71. The Cowboys are at $2.15 at the moment, so not that heavy. And the line is only 2.5.
Good. Then we got Cronulla taking on Brisbane. That's the next game.
Run us through that. I'm just going to go for a quick wee break, but you run us through.
I wasn't going to say much about it. A couple of blokes with injuries. Absolute nothing game. Well, Cronulla need to win to maintain, or they need to win to get back into the 8th spot, knock the Raiders back out.
Mm-hmm.
I have actually picked the Sharkies. I thought the Sharkies would do this against the Brisbane team, even in Suncorp. Brisbane just stink, and Cronulla are better. I'm not sure about Cronulla and how the Dugan during the week getting his 50K fine for another COVID breach going out. I think he drove someone. He drove someone through a hotspot, got caught and got a second breach, got 50K. And Adam Elliott, I think the other breach he got, does it say here? I think he got 10K and was going to be stood down for the rest of the year. But yeah, just
Right.
being silly, doing silly things. Buy pressure subs. Thanks.
Yeah, that's it. Who have I gone here? I went with the Sharks as well. Yeah, I guess Brisbane season's sort of been done for a while now. Yeah, they're not really playing for anything, so
they have improved on last year. They got the spoon last year, and they're 14th currently, so better
that's
than
true.
teams.
That's true. And yeah, with some of the player movements that they've had, they haven't really got too many players on the field left who, yeah, I don't know. There's not too much else to say about that. I'm assuming Peps would have gone Sharks as well.
I think so, with their season on the line. We'll say he did. If he didn't, it's his own fault.
That's it. Well, one way or another, we may or may not have put the curse on the Sharks, who are favourites at the moment at $1.55. Broncos are out at $2.45. And the line is 4.5.
It's not a close game of footy, but I doubt it.
That's it. Yeah. And like you said,
just confirming Cronulla Sharks here.
Yeah, that's it. Like you said, Sean, finals are on the line for them, so they'll be playing to win, whereas Brisbane haven't really got too much to play for, I guess, other than pride.
I just saw it here and I just thought I'd bring it up. How many games do you think Canterbury won this year? How many do you think they've lost?
20. 2 and 20. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, God. Anyway, we'll get to them in a minute. Let's talk about one of the better games. So Melbourne Storm going up against the Pretenders. The Dave Grolls in Parramatta, who have now fallen down to 6th. Melbourne did lose to Para in week 2, round 2. So Storm probably out for a little bit of revenge. Plus, they're going for the streak, the 20 wins, the outright record for them. Para broke their 4-game losing streak over the very, very terrible Cowboys, but they did lose Marco Sivo for the rest of the year. Confirmed ACL, had surgery, ruptured ACL as well as MCL damage. That's pretty bad. So his season done, and he'll be deep into next year before we see him again. So hopefully good rehab.
Devastating there. One of the better finishes in the game. So wishing Michael all the best with his recovery. The odds on this, boys, may shock you. We've got the first side going up against the 6th side. And Monks, you got them there. I think Melbourne's less than $1.10.
I do have them here. Do you want to go odds first? And
Melbourne.
We're all picking Melbourne.
Sorry. Yeah, we're all picking Melbourne.
No one's picking like, come on.
True. So Melbourne are $1.07. Eagles are out at $9. We've got a line as well of 22.5.
Total match points?
22.5 is the line between a 1st and 6th matchup. That speaks volumes of where this league is at the moment.
On top of
the problem is, I think that's cash money. Get on that. Like they should put 30 plus on it.
Start the game. Parramatta 22, Melbourne 0, and watch them rein it in, mate. I don't think you're far off. I don't think you're far off the chockies there.
No, well, yeah, total match points are 49.5. The Storm also do see
get on it.
Jerome Hughes, Justin Olam, who else? Brendan Smith back.
They're all in the squad. They're 100% healthy at the right time.
Coming into finals, they've got their full 17. And as we mentioned before, a side that's so good that Nico Hines may have to prove himself to play finals football.
Yeah.
I think he makes a good 14. Like he probably put him on.
Yeah, I agree. I
He can play anywhere in the back line, but
well, and then the argument against that is if you've got Harry Grant and Brandon Smith available, one of them has to go to the bench, and then you've only got two big
and
four.
Harry Grant in his game last week was dynamic for the Storm, so got to put him in. And
it's theirs to lose, mate. It's definitely theirs to lose.
So Smith slots in at 9, and then you've got Grant at 14, and Hines is bumped to 17.
Yeah. So I suppose the concern is coming into finals is can you operate with two middle/edge forwards there if you're rolling with a 9 and a utility, or a hooker and a utility on the bench, I guess.
Yeah.
Why
not matter if you're putting 50 points on every team you play. So
yeah.
No,
it's interesting now that I look at this since they come into their 20-match win streak. So what did they start? They started 1 and 2. And then
1 and 2. Yeah. And I believe, and I don't know if you guys are into omens, but the Roosters side in 1975 that did win that 19 in a row, and that the Storm are trying to eclipse this weekend, they started 1 and 2. So
it's all signs.
They won out from there. Yeah, the omen. Righto, boys. Let's fly through Sunday, because let's be honest. I hope there's some good Paralympics action going on Sunday, because I don't think these two games will be too exciting in terms of how close they are. Manly take on Canterbury. Up at that Morton Daly Stadium, the possible home of the NFL NRL side in the Redcliffe Dolphins, or some kind of iteration of that. Manly actually got tested last week without Tommy Turbo against the Raiders. Alas for Sea Eagles fans, the Turbo is back this week. I don't know why.
That was the one match I got wrong last week. I would have had 3 perfect rounds.
Yeah, 3 in a row. That's nuts. That's nuts. The fact that you are 23 out of 24 of your last tips, and the one that you got wrong was a smoky. It wasn't. So very, very close to being 3 perfect rounds in a row. We mentioned Adam Elliott getting stood down. Not much in that. As Homer Simpson would say, boring.
I mentioned it already. Keep going.
Yeah, a bit of a smooch. Who cares? Manly win this convincingly. I imagine we all tip Manly, and I think the line might be more interesting than the head-to-head here, Monks.
Yeah, I've gone. Yeah, Manly as well. Yeah, obviously as well. Sorry, the odds. I'll start with the odds. Manly are favourites $1.02. Bulldogs are at 16. 2 cents. So you got a, I don't know, lazy million sitting around. You might make some money, but other than that,
as you mentioned earlier in the show, you're down 3% on your Bitcoin. If you just put this game, you might be able to be up 2%. That's a 5% swing, brother.
That is. That's good chat, actually. The line for the match is 31.5 with total match points of 54.5. So expecting the Dogs to put up some tries, but I don't know.
Yeah, as we've been saying all year, the plus 13, that's where it's at.
A little bit more than plus 13.
Yeah. What's 13 plus here? It's probably $1.20, if that, for Manly. Again, the state of this league right now. We talk about expansion, and again, I think you couldn't do worse than like a Canterbury's going this year. But it's hard, isn't it? If you're, if it's not one of your teams playing, if it's not a Raiders, or it's not a Dragons, or it's not one of the premier sides in the league, like a Melbourne or a Penrith or a South going at it, I don't want to watch this. I'd rather look up a YouTube video of some kind of bloke kills innocent puppy, because that's what this is. There's
less of a slaughter.
This is a
less
dark hole we're diving down now.
That's right. Like YouTube, man takes lamb to slaughter and slits its throat. That is what's going to happen in both these games this weekend.
I was going to say there's NFL preseason games you could be watching, but yeah, manslaughter's a little out. Like we go that way.
Yeah, interesting, Sean. But by that time in the afternoon, I think they'll be done, those games.
No, there's plenty of games you could rewatch. So
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So long story short,
I think we all picked
Manly
all-
plus
so,
13 is
yeah.
$1.14.
Jeez, that's a big
Hey,
spot.
free money.
Yeah, I guess. Better than Monk's Bitcoin portfolio.
For Manly, besides Alex Johnson and Addo Carr, the next three top try scorers are all from Manly.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it? It's Ruben Garrick, or Tommy Turbo, Ruben Garrick, Jason Saab. So to have three of the top 5 try scorers in the league this year, a testament to the way that the Sea Eagles have been able to turn their season around after a really mediocre start. You cast your minds back way back in the year, 0-4. So who would have thought we'd be talking about them possibly being a contender for taking out the NRL Premiership in 2021.
Final game we got, of course, is Penrith taking on West. I'm pretty sure we all picked Penrith. What's really good for Penrith is that they're getting healthy as well. We've got To'o, James Fisher-Harris, both to return this week, which is what they need because they need to get that form. They have won the last 2 games, I think, on the trot. So they as well getting red hot leading into the finals, healthy as well. We talked about this. It's Storms to win. Penrith, if they get back to where they were at the start of the year, they're the only ones that can probably really compete with them. Dark horse being Manly. Don't think the other teams are going to push them.
I'll throw South in that conversation. I still think South on their day maybe can push a Melbourne. Penrith look like old Penrith. They look like that side that started the year 14-0 or whatever it was. Nathan Cleary back to his best, and they only get bolstered this week by To'o and James Fisher-Harris coming back into the side. Some sad news for the West Tigers with Adam Dewey, probably hands down their best player this year. He's done his ACL, confirmed. There was hopes around the injury initially that it might have been something less severe. Turns out it's an ACL. Poor bloke. He's been a shining light at that club this year. Again, I imagine it's all Penrith tips here and the odds and the 13 plus. I mean, the line and the 13 plus might be more interesting than the head-to-head odds themselves.
Yeah. So obviously Panthers are favourites $1.03 at the moment. So I can put my money.
More than the previous game.
Exactly. Exactly opposite to my crypto portfolio. Targeted at $13 at the moment. The line is 29.5, and we've got a Panthers plus 13 at $1.14 again.
Well, that'll wrap up our NRL chat for this week, boys. I think. Have you got anything to add there, Sean?
I'm done with the NRL. Let's talk about the NFL instead.
News.
And talk about some of their preseason games. Let me just put this on.
Oh, there you go. The Denver Broncos Cavs back. Look, boys, I'm really excited for the NRL finals, but you may as well not even bother with these last few rounds. Like, seriously,
if they expand the league like they're planning to, make the season shorter. 20 rounds.
Yeah.
Let's go to that.
If you get to a point where there's 18 teams or 20 teams, perhaps in the future, maybe everyone plays each other once. Make sure every game's important in terms of the implications for the end of the year and get on with the finals and
play everyone round once. Have 3, say your most, your rivals, play them twice, and there's your schedule. Job done.
Beautiful.
So just what is it? 24 games in total with 2 buys.
24 games. So with a bye, round 25 will do us next weekend. Yeah, it's a long year, when you have State of Origin, and there won't be any international games, it seems, at the end of this season. But if you were a State of Origin and Australian representative, you're looking at 30 plus games in one of the most physically demanding sports in the world. I tend to agree. As a spectator and for players, you'd imagine a shorter season might be worth considering in the future.
Yeah, well, put it this way: if you're the Storm, to make the finals, you only need to win 9 games. So don't play the first 16 and just show up for the finals. So show up we'll play the last 9, win all 9, and then we'll make it in the finals. So what's the point of the first half of the season?
It's drawn out. It is a touch drawn out. Anyways, a season where or a sport, I should say, where every single game counts, to the point that we're talking about the fucking preseason is the NFL. We had 5 straight nights of games here, boys. The Patriots and the Eagles were the first cab off the ranks. A really interesting battle here between Cam Newton and Mac Jones for that starting quarterback position. Did anything change our minds here as to who might be starting week 1? Obviously, the news came out this week that Cam had to miss a few days from training due to some COVID breach in protocol, but I think he is available for the game this weekend.
Well, that'd be worth finding out if he actually is available, because some chat that Mac Jones might play predominantly a lot of this game, and if he has another excellent showing like he did in the last one, maybe that puts him over the hump and they actually start with him over Cam, which would be interesting. The other big kind of news was with the excellent competition they're having at running back, Sonny Michel kind of ended up being the odd man out, so he's been traded to the Rams, who do need running back help after Henderson, I think, has got dealing with an ankle injury. So
and
they've got
Cam Akers scratched from training camp with an Achilles, and then Henderson's kind of touch and go. I think the Rams really did well in this one. I think they gave up a 5th and a 6th round pick for Sonny Michel, who was a former first round pick, and in that 2019 playoffs, which led to the Super Bowl against the Rams, coincidentally, he was on fire. I think he had 6 touchdowns in that playoff run, and then he's actually going over to LA. I think the fantasy implications here are quite interesting. Do you think Sony goes over to LA and becomes the feature back?
I don't think they'll do the feature. I don't think Sonny Michel's designed to be the feature back. But I think the biggest implication is like Henderson, I think, is the guy they'll give the 1s and 2s to, and then Sonny Michel comes in 3rd down. So you're now in the position where you're in a committee versus Henderson getting 250 touches this year. Maybe it's down to 200 or 180, and then Shoney's getting the remainder of that. So then it probably hurts Henderson's value more than it helps Sony's. Could maybe bring him up, but it just means there's one less, high tier kind of running back that's going to get bulk touches this year. That's the way I think of it for this coming in.
And you know what it cemented home for me is Ramondre Stevenson, their rookie running back. He has got a spot this year on the Pats. He had 15 carries for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he will make this 53-man squad, especially given the news this week of Sonny Michel getting moved to Los Angeles. The Eagles 2s, they were dreadful. This game finished 35-0. We didn't see Jalen Hurts. We saw Devonta Smith.
Tummy bug, I think, for Hurts. He was meant to play, and then he had tummy bug, had to go to hospital. Not COVID related. He seems to be right, so he'll probably play this week. Devonta Smith looks really crisp in his routes. He had 2 drops. When I actually saw these throws, I'd say it's more on Joe Flacco than it was on Devonta's. But it looks like Smith's going to be their wide receiver number 1. They don't really have too many other options out there to compete against him. So look for Hurts and Smith to be the big combination coming out of Philly.
Moving on.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, moving on to the Chiefs and the Cardinals, we actually saw Patrick Mahomes play nearly a whole first half here. He had 10 completions from 18 passes, 78 yards, and an intercept. Very unusual in the way that different coaches and different teams are approaching this. Some teams, we haven't seen any of their starters at all. And, it doesn't matter if you're a defensive tackle or if you're the starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs and the most talented, arguably, player in the league. So Paddy played nearly the whole first half uninjured, which is great to see. And they just got home here in this game against the Cardinals. do you boys make much of the Travis Kelce memes? He's had a shave, and the memes were going a bit ballistic. A lot of it kind of alluding to the old Travis with the designer beard and the the earring, as to you wouldn't let that old Travis take your daughter out, but new Travis looks like a bloke that he'll get her home by 9, sir. Thanks, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, Kels now looks like a 40-year-old man. So
weird, isn't it? It's
so he's gone
normally shaving makes you look younger.
Yeah, he's gone. Well, he's gone from this, hip model kind of look, the professional athlete, really cool, suave, whatever you want to say. Throw those words in, and then he just looks like the suburban dad now. So
doesn't he? Probably the best meme that I saw was Travis Kelce now looks like Will Ferrell playing Travis Kelce in a movie.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with that.
I can see that. I can see that.
That was really the only major news that came out of this game, because I think the rest of it was all twos, and there wasn't a huge amount going on. Tyler Murray didn't play too much.
A lot of twos. Kyler played just the one drive. It was Colt McCoy and Chris Streveler there for the Cards. Boys, a bit off the cuff here, but what do we think about the Cards in the NFC West? I think on paper, they've definitely got the talent to win that division this year. Thoughts?
Their biggest problems, I think, is the stuff that's probably happening off-field / around the team, like Chandler Jones with his trade request, and then there's the whole DeAndre Hopkins and the vaccination policy for him, and potentially he might not play this season. Don't think it comes to that, but we still consider it. Electric.
Nuke Hopkins probably being the most high-profile anti-vax player this season. So if he sits out, I suppose you're talking about a top 3 receiver in the NFL not playing. That may have some implications. But on paper, outside of that external noise, they look pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously a tough division for them to compete in, but they've always sort of just been there, so always an opportunity.
Yeah, for mine, I think on paper, I think they're better than the 49ers and maybe the Seahawks. I think the Rams defense is highly touted this year, and with the addition of Stafford, I think it's the Cardinals and the Rams going at it in the NFC West.
Yeah, I agree. So then we had Bengals taking on the football team in a bit of a snooze fest. Joe Burrow didn't really play. Well, he didn't play in this. He warmed up. Brendan Allen, former Broncos quarterback, took the first half. But the big story really out of this was Jamar Chase, the 5th overall pick, having real struggles with drops at the moment. So
he had 3 drops in this game, all on 3rd down. Crucial times to be coming up with a catch. The internet was not kind to Jamar Chase here. I did see some memes along the lines of Jamar could go out in a COVID infested area, no mask, no vaccination. Don't worry, he won't catch anything.
Washington on the flip side, Fitzpatrick 7 of 13 for 96, and Antonio Gibson was pretty good as well. Had a few carries, a few catches. Landon Collins actually came back from an Achilles tear that he had week 7 2020, so that's good news for them. And they had an undrafted running back in Patterson who was heavily involved in this. I'm not sure he might make the team later on, but they still have JD, McKissick, and a few other options there too. The football team looks good. I think they've got some good options there. It'll be interesting to see what they look like with the full squad, but that's really any news from there. The Bears game, on the other hand, had some interesting news. Mitch Trubisky up against his former team went 20 of 28 for 221 yards and 1 touchdown. His first 4 drives all ended up in touchdowns. The Bills did score 41 points to absolutely smoke the Bears. It's too slow for me. Justin Fields was 9 of 19 and 80 yards. He did have 46 run yards, but he absolutely got murdered when they left the defensive end or outside linebacker unblocked, and he just killed the man. Absolutely tattooed himself on Justin Fields.
Again, you know how I was talking about the internet being unkind? The same thing here for Justin Fields, considering he said the NFL was slower than he had expected. It seemed pretty quick. It seemed pretty quick there, young Justin.
No prisoners.
Brush it off. He got smacked. He lost his helmet, but unaffected. He's tough. I've said it last week. I'm a big fan of Justin Fields. I hope he succeeds this year. Andy Dalton went out there. He completed 11 passes from 17, 146 yards, a touchdown and an intercept. And a lot of the news seems to be that Dalton will be getting the starting job week 1. I don't know if that's just a bit of noise coming out of Chicago. You'd imagine that Fields takes the starting role within the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say within the first month.
Yeah. To his credit, he did lead rushing for the entire game at 46 yards.
It's probably more a reflection of Bill's.
Yeah, indeed. I think that speaks volumes to where the Chicago offensive line and their running backs are at, especially their second line at that. The Jets and the Packers. The Jets come away with the preseason win here against the Pack. Zach Wilson looked pretty good on the 4 series that he played. He was 9 from 11, 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, if you don't mind. Corey Davis looks to have found a spot there at the New York Jets. And so does Tyler Croft, the ex-Bengals tight end. He had 2 touchdown receptions. A big loss for the Jets was losing Carl Lawson to an Achilles rupture. He kind of shook it off a bit on his socials. He said it's just like a flesh wound. He has torn both ACLs before, so no stranger to a long time in rehabilitation. We're wishing him all the best for his recovery. I looked up his measurables. How's this, boys? 4.67. So pretty close to wide receiver speed off the edge. And 35 reps of 225 pounds on the bench. I was thinking about what I could do, 35 reps. I think the bar. I think if you gave me the bar with no weight on either side, I think I'd get to 35. That's no guarantee.
Well, he was their massive off-season signing coming across from Cincinnati, so that's a bit of a loss for them.
For the franchise as well, I think they paid the man a fair bit of money as well.
So I expect the Jets to stink a little bit, I'd say, on the defense. What's interesting, and I just double-checked it, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance still don't get stats on NFL.com. They don't exist currently. I guess it's because they're rookies or whatever. You can't find their stats on the site, which is hilarious. Yeah.
Wow.
Usual.
Yeah. But what was really interesting, because these 2 clubs train together during the week, doing the cross camp collaboration. But it was cool to see Wilson and Rogers kind of picking each other's brains and showing the young kid on the block with the old head and Rogers. Be interesting to see how that goes. Of course, there's no Rogers, no Jordan Love in this game for the Pack. So,
it was very much a twos outfit for the Packers in this one. You saw a little bit of Eric Stokes. He had a few series, the first round cornerback pick there. But yeah, hard to gauge what this loss to the Jets really meant. I'll tell you what was confusing. Amari Rogers, the 3rd round draft pick wide receiver, was in the box score there, and I thought, oh geez, hey Rogers. It took me eye, and then I thought, oh no, hang on a second. They actually drafted a receiver, and his name is Amari Rogers. So there'll be 2 A Rogers lining up this year for the Green Bay Packers.
He may need to play a bigger role because Funchess as well on injured reserve, season done. Unfortunately for him, I was just double checking to see what he actually had done. Old Devon. But yeah, that's a bit of a loss for them. He came across last year, I think.
Ex-Carolina receiver there. And a lot of the noise has always been who will be the second receiver for Green Bay. You've got this Devontae Adams, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Who's going to be the number 2 guy? Last year, Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling were kind of going at it. They brought in Randall Cobb this year. They drafted Amari Rogers. It'd be really nice to see someone stamp out that role and become a true wide receiver 2 in the NFL.
Unfortunately for Devon, it was ongoing hamstring injuries. So he's missed most of last year and he's going to miss this year too because of that, which is unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Ravens and Panthers?
Yep. So
The
Ravens continue their preseason streak, unbeaten, 19 in a row. Unreal. Panthers, on the other hand, Panthers going to Panther. We're interested to see what their team looks like. It's hard to say now. No, you want to see what CMC looks like coming off his injury, coming into the season, how that's going to all play out. But he won't play any preseason game, I wouldn't think. So Ty Huntley played the whole game at quarterback, 24 of 34, 187 yards, 1 interception. Plenty of touches for the backup running backs, but you don't expect them to be doing too much for the Ravens with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards there. Will Gallier, 11 of 40, 144 yards, did outperform Philip Walker, who was 1 of 8 for 8 yards at quarterback, which I think is a bit of a letdown for the old PJ.
Yeah, we were talking last week about would PJ be pushing for a starting position there against Sam Darnold. I think that this game put that to bed. No, PJ will be lucky to make this squad, let alone be starting there. You imagine Sam Darnold is lining up in a few weeks in the first game for Carolina. Not too much other than that to take out of that game. The Ravens are really, really, really good in preseason, which is weird. Possibly an insight into Harbaugh's approach to preseason, playing a few more starters than other teams may. The next game was Falcons and Dolphins. The Falcons passing game was fucking dreadful. Again,
bad team.
It could be a long year for them. Luckily, Carolina aren't much chop, but you'd imagine Tampa Bay and New Orleans are pretty good there in the NFC South. Not much hope for Atlanta Falcons fans this year.
There has been some chat that potentially they maybe move Matt Ryan now. I don't think they can based on the deal and how much money he's got, but he's older. Trade him now, see if he gets some picks. You're in full rebuild, essentially. Like, we're going to stink. Let's I'm not sure who the number 1 guy is, but let's push for that number 1 pick. Get rid of Matt Ryan, get maybe another first rounder, push him to a team that could do with a veteran talent. So fun round. I don't think it'll happen.
That happened now. I think if it, they've got one strength is this veteran quarterback that's taken them to a Super Bowl and a blown lead away from being Super Bowl champs. I'd be surprised if that happens, but not a good time to be a fan of the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be a rough year, you'd imagine. The Dolphins, on the other hand, Tua Tagovailoa, he played a little bit. Actually played most of the first half. He looked pretty good. And I'll tell you what, his backup, Jacoby Brissett, looked pretty good too. And watch out for newly acquired Malcolm Brown from the Los Angeles Rams. He had 10 carries, 43 yards, 1 touchdown. I've got Myles Gaskin that I could keep in our fantasy league, but I'm unsure this year about the impact that he might have, given that they went out and took Malcolm Brown. I think it may be a 2-headed horse there for the running back position for the Miami Dolphins.
Ahmed's been good for them as well, so they've got good running backs there, and Gaskin's issues being the health of as well. So, it'll be interesting to see how he goes this year too. I expect he's probably going to get a lot of carries if he's healthy.
You'd imagine.
There's definitely mouths to feed, unfortunately, in that offense. Speaking of mouths to feed, Titans taking on Bucks.
Did you catch much of this, Monks? There was a bit of a wild joint practice leading up to it.
There was. So there was a bit of a fight in the joint practice.
Heavyweight champion, AB.
Yeah, that's it. As always, preseason training can always get a little bit heated because some players are obviously not expecting contact. Other players are. I mean, you've got a lot of players trying to fight for spots on teams. It was appeared to have happened during some one-on-one drills. So the fight was between Antonio Brown and Titans cornerback Chris Johnson, not Jack Johnson, the singer.
Yeah, good musician actually. Really nice acoustic music.
Very nice.
Such songs as Banana Pancakes, Taylor, Better Together.
That's it. But none of that sort of stuff in the field.
It made news, but it wasn't much in it.
Nah. Brown ended up skipping the rest of practice. I think he was sort of told to cool off. There was another couple of scuffles. I think the heat was just getting to a couple of the boys, and yeah, that was really it.
Yeah, not a huge amount to talk about in this actual game. Tennessee did dominate, but the interesting is Kyle Trask, who I think is his second or third round pick for the Buccaneers.
Third round, I think, but I think he was only like the fifth or sixth quarterback taken out of this draft. So you'd imagine they've got some kind of interest in his long-term future. Quite disappointing again. 13 of 26, 131 yards, 2 picks. And a big one for the Titans in a coaching point of view is Mike Vrabel has got COVID. You'd imagine he'd be close by week 1 to being back there, but they may have to go first week without their head coach.
Yeah, it's the second time he's got it as well. And I think the news today was about 9 of the coaching staff have COVID at the moment. So, they're currently monitoring that situation. And that brings into play all the different policies and the changing of the code practices and like what's working, what's not. And what are the Players Association agreed to it's not working. Do we need to go back to daily testing? I think everyone kind of forgets that, most of these guys are vaccinated, but doesn't mean that you can't not catch it and you can't not spread it. So, we'll see how that goes and how that plays out through the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, that's the big news for the Titans. Next game was Lions-Steelers. Big Ben actually did play in this, and he looked really good, which is great for the Steelers. He did fade very hard towards the end of last year. He started the year well. So have to see how he goes this year. He was 8 of 10, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the big pump fake out, juking out the cameras. Steelers.
That done me. I was watching that. Someone sent it to me like, these cameramen, rah, rah. And I was like, don't worry about the cameraman. I was looking in the back of the end zone for where that ball was. Those big mitts, Big Ben's big mitts. He grips that football like it's a tennis ball.
Yeah. Yeah, and Steelers, all their ones played their first half, so all the big names were there. The interesting one, I think Chase Claypool is dealing with, I think, hamstring. He's been held out of late, but they've got a lot of mouths to feed in that offense especially, so it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. But Harris, being the lead back, he will get all the workload, so he will be leading that field definitely. No Jared Goff on the flip side for the Lions. The Lions, I don't think, played too many ones in this at all, and nothing really to write home in their backups. Colts taking on Vikings. I think the big news, start with the Colts. Wentz, Nelson back at training. I think Wentz looks a lot better than Nelson has. They're kind of managing Nelson a bit more. I guess you can say big boy on ankle versus Wentz, who's definitely got a 60, 70 kilos less, not pounds. I'll talk stupid measurements. Both had surgery within like a couple of days of each other. So it's really interesting. Wentz wants to play week 1. He's pushing for that. I think there's the reason being behind that. Like this was the team built for Andrew Luck to take the Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers took them the playoffs last year. They've got an awesome defense. They've got offensive talent. Wentz knows what the team is capable of, and they really need the quarterback. Yeah. Jacob Eason, not super impressive for them, but he did 16 of 27, 132, like solid, but he's no Wentz. And I hope, Wentz at MVP level that he was at before he got injured, that's kind of what they want to get him back to. Vikings, on the other hand, their offense stinky without Kirk Cousins. I said last week I really like Cannon Moon. But they did nothing this week, so nothing really to write home for the Vikings, unfortunately.
It's Mond, isn't it? I think it's a D on the end of it. That done me as well because it looks like the end of the name. Yeah, I think it's Mond, Kellen Mond. Their rookie pick. The thing for me is this seems really, really rushed for Carson and Nelson to be. They're talking about playing week 1. I'd be very interested in what actually happened in these foot surgeries. But yeah, it's not
the same injury.
and there's been a bit hush hush about it as well into what's happening. But yeah, it'd be very.
A piece of bone that had broken loose in his foot.
There's a lot can happen in the foot.
Yeah. Well, this cause I remember we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. His was an injury that he'd just been carrying since high school. It wasn't something necessarily that was obviously had to get surgery on it, but it wasn't something that was causing him too much pain or anything. So
well, it sounds like they just opened him up, pulled out that bone fracture, and then sewed him back up again. So maybe it's just nothing overly important.
No. So I'm reading a report here. So he had surgery to remove a broken bone from his foot.
Right.
Took the shard out, which was causing him issues, sewed it back up, and it's obviously not a thing that is important that does joint movement or something like that, just a bit of extra support. Get away without it.
Possibly, yeah.
Good
Like cutting off
assessment,
a toe or something.
Yeah. From the doctors on the Esky here. So let's talk about some Texans Cowboys and Cowboys Hard Knocks. I think viewership for Hard Knocks has actually been a bit down this year, which is surprising considering it's Cowboys.
America's team, yeah. I would have thought it would have been up, but there you go. Did you boys catch the episode of Hard Knocks?
Yeah, had it on in the background.
Yeah.
A
few interesting stories to come out of it. The defensive line coach for the Cowboys, he's a Pom. He's got a thick English accent, and it made me ponder. Maybe that's what we sound like when we're talking about American football, given our accents.
Pretty much. Good old Skippy talking about
You think we sound that sophisticated?
Yeah, he probably has much more insight and knowledge into the game, actually. So we probably sound worse.
Maybe. No, but he had a pretty cool story. Coming up playing in the NFL Europe League. Then came across and did a couple of internships. I think one internship was at the Cowboys. Then moved across to the Falcons, and then I was able to get the gig back at the Cowboys as a defensive line coach. So pretty cool story.
Another cool story was Azur Kamara. Out of the Ivory Coast, he was a refugee that moved over to the States courtesy of his mother moving their family over there. Undrafted out of Kansas, 6'4", 235, so a little undersized as a outside linebacker. So he'll be trying to make the 53-man roster there. He actually had a strip sack last week against the Cardinals, which went back on a false start. And you know who the false start was against? The offense. Try and work that out. So they couldn't decline the false start from the offense. A bunch of garbage. I'll tell you who looks really good, boys. And unfortunately, he's come down with a bit of COVID this week, but hoping he recovers well from that. CD Lamb, boys. I think he's really going to put his name forward this year. His sophomore year, second year in the NFL. I think he'll start looking like a really premier receiver. He had 74 receptions last year, 935 yards for 7 touchdowns. They're pretty good rookie numbers. I think watch him push 100 receptions this year.
Yeah, I think this Cowboys team really relies on Dak. Like out of this game against the Texans, Texans stink. Texans are going to be one of the worst teams this year. Cowboys on the flip side, they need to be better than they were last year. They need a healthy Dak, and if the healthy Dak is there, they've got all the weapons they could possibly imagine on offense. They've got a good offensive line. The defense is improving. They've got 2 new inside linebackers that seem to be working really well together. They could be a bit of a surprise packet, and if that offense is clicking, that just makes it all the better for CD Lamb. Him and Amari could both push over 100.
They should win that division comfortably, even with their defensive deficiencies. The fact that they've drafted well on the defensive side of the ball, that offense stands up against any in the NFL. You'd imagine if everyone stays healthy that they should win the NFC East this year.
Yeah, like what is it? Yeah. Eagles aren't going to be that great. The Giants stink. Washington's probably their biggest competition.
Yeah, I think Washington's their biggest competition.
What's Washington's strong suit? Defense.
Defense. So, yeah.
Quite an interesting matchup between them two.
For sure. The Raiders and the Rams. Not many starters in this one. Not too much to report about. Nathan Peterman. He played the whole game at quarterback for the Raiders there. Not much to write home about. Bryce Perkins. He attended 39 passes. You don't see that too much in a preseason game for a quarterback. 26 completions, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an intercept. What do we think of these two teams? I think the Rams, as I said earlier in the podcast, there or thereabouts to be them and the Cardinals being the best team in the NFC West. I think the Raiders, obviously, you've got the Chiefs. And then I think it's pretty close between them, the Broncos, and the Chargers. Any thoughts contrary to that?
It'd be really interesting to see what the Raiders look like offensively when they have all the ones out there, because they basically got rid of all their offensive line and brought in some guys, but not the names that they got rid of. The Rams, and I think it's actually the same problem the Cards have. It'd be really interesting to see what their run game ends up being. Like the Cards, they've got Edmonds and Connor there, and Connor really hasn't done too much in preseason. I wonder what that looks like, whether that goes forward. And the Rams, they're now trying to find guys to play running back at the moment. So hopefully Shani Michelle and Henderson can kind of come in and, add that need there, because otherwise Matt Stafford's going to struggle with the amount of pass rushes he's going to have in his face if there's no threat of the run coming at him.
For sure.
That's it. I think it's just crazy that we're talking about the NFC West and we're not talking about the Seahawks.
Well, we'll get to them. That's the next game. Broncos
we will get to them, but in terms of that conversation.
Good segue into this game. Sean, the Seahawks played the Broncos, your team. What did you gather out of this game? And maybe we will have a chat quickly about where the Seahawks fit into that NFC West battle.
Well, no ones in this game for the Seahawks, and it showed. Like the Seahawks definitely were underdone compared to what the Broncos are putting out there, but the Broncos did play a lot of ones, especially in the first half. So, when I say that, everyone for the Seahawks didn't play. So it's hard to gauge what that team looks like. They've got Danger Ross, Chris Carlson's back there, Rashad Penny and DJ Dallas also healthy at running back. They've got the DK and they've got Lockett outside. So they've got the weapons. The offensive line is slightly better than they've got. I think I can't remember his name. They've got one more guy they've got in free agency added. So they've got Jamal Adams, the highest paid safety in the league, now back as well with the team. So they've got some defensive capability there. They'll be a good team, definitely. It really depends on how Danger Russ goes. Another team that started well last year and then kind of faded off. Had to rely too much on Russell, and you just couldn't keep it up. With everything else kind of crumbling around him, they couldn't play defense. Really, I think was probably the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
True. I am just seeing here as well there, tight end Luke Wilson signed for his 4th stint as a Seahawk and then retired next day due to heart conditions and other health issues.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so wishing him all the best moving forward as well, I guess.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Definitely.
Giants and Browns, it's probably more news out of what happened before the game than during the game. Doing the rounds of the social media circuit and the internet this week was Sterling Shepard and Troy Hill shaping up in their practice. I don't think threw too many, but they were definitely shaping up. The game itself, pretty boring, not many starters. The Giants, a shit division, and that I think it'll be them and Philadelphia battling it out to not be the worst team in the worst team in the division, I should say.
Yep. Yeah, Browns on the flip side, they should be a really, really good team, but they've got ones playing in this, so we'll have to wait and see what maybe some of those ones play next week or this weekend in a couple of days. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. 49ers taking on the Chargers the next game. Jimmy G did start and only played a few series. Did get picked off. Trey Lance did come out 8 for 14, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Did look a bit better than last week. What was interesting, I think during the week at training camp, Trey Lance did take some snaps with the first team. So it's interesting. They keep asking Shani whether he's picked a quarterback, and he said, "I'm pretty close to making a decision. I've got a guy in mind." And then they asked Jimmy G was next up at the podium, and and Jimmy was pretty confident he knew who it was and it was going to be him. We'll have to see how that season unfolds to begin the year. If they struggle, I think they'll hand those reins over the Trey pretty quick.
Yeah, tend to agree. We spoke about it last week. Obviously, a lot more confident in Trey Lance's ability this week. Completing more passes and getting the 2 touchdowns. I do tend to agree. I think Jimmy G is who they're going to go with in week 1, but wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance takes over the reins there. What was interesting out of this game?
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 North Dakota State University quarterbacks going at it, because on the other side of the football was Easton Stick, former NDSU quarterback, obviously the university that produced Carson Wentz. He was going at it. The Chargers, they just couldn't run the ball, and the 49ers got away with a narrow win here. Obviously Justin Herbert will be the starting QB there, but I think Easton Stick has put his name forward to make that squad.
Chargers didn't play any ones in this either, so hard to gauge what that team looks like until we get into the start of the season. Then the last game, Jags taking on the Saints to finish it off. A lot of interest in the battle because there's 2 QB battles here. I think LASIK, James Winston, has probably won this battle. He threw 2 TD bombs to Callaway, who was 5 for 100, 5 catches, 5 receptions for 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill wasn't too bad. He started off, I think, a little bit worse, and he played better in the second part of his stint to actually get his numbers up to 11 for 20, 138 yards, 1 touchdown. No running again, trying to show that he is a pocket passer. But I think this is Winston's team. I think that's what they've got here going forward. What are your thoughts, boys?
No, I agree 100%. Jameis Winston is the better all-round polished quarterback. I think there's still a place for Taysom Hill in this side. A gadget man, a short yardage man, a red zone man. But I think that the starting quarterback in week 1 should be Jameis Winston, and he proved that point this week just gone against the Jaguars.
Yep. So then
100%.
On the other side of the field, Trevor Lawrence has been named the starter. He's going to be number 1. Unfortunately for Minshew, he really didn't play well enough in the preseason to even push for that kind of position. The Jags overall don't look super great. Marvin Jones, I think, kind of put his hand up with DJ Chark out at the moment. CJ Beathard was the best probably QB of a lot of the Jags. He's probably played the other 2, but you've invested in Lawrence. That's who you're picking. That's who's going to be your number 1 quarterback going forward.
And those numbers from CJ Beathard may be inflated. It was garbage time. I think the game was done. Maybe it speaks a little bit more than what was the actual case. I don't think it was ever a quarterback battle like the media was hamming it up to be. I think Trevor Lawrence was always going to be the starter in this side, boys. What are our thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Lynch had to play well, like really well, to show that he was a class above where rookie Lawrence was to even be considered. At which point I thought he would probably get traded anyway. So it was always going to be Lawrence's team.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Like, it's not like Jacksonville had a quarterback that you could have Lawrence sit behind for the start of the season or for a whole season just to learn off him. So, yeah, I think it was always Lawrence's team. Yeah.
And the other big news for the Jags to finish them off was the loss of their running back.
Yeah, Travis Etienne did Liz Frank. That nasty injury in the foot tends to be pretty debilitating. It seems he will miss the whole season there. Look, really, really disappointing news for Travis. Obviously, one of Trevor Lawrence's best mates coming out of Clemson there. I think some very interesting fantasy implications as well for James Robinson. Probably the most impressive undrafted free agent last year, and now he's going to enjoy that backfield without a first round draft pick at running back. So
they do have they got Carlos Hyde there as well. So
yeah, Carlos Hyde's there. He's a journeyman. You'd imagine he takes a few carries away from James Robinson there, but you'd imagine James Robinson to push 1,000 yards again this season.
Yeah, I definitely think about that. And with that, I think that's probably the NFL news. I'm annoyed you boys didn't let me talk about Broncos quarterback situation, but you probably don't need to listen to me rant for the next 10 minutes.
Say that for next week.
Yeah.
I'll just say they went with the safe option. That's probably all I'll say on that. And that'll finish up NFL chat for this week. Monks has just given me an update on the crickets. They're at lunch 34, 1 down. Rahul out after 8 runs. So probably not a great start, you'd hope, for the Indian side trying to chase down 300 plus.
Yeah, England wraps that up pretty quick, you'd imagine. Back to England, the EPL round 2 was underway. There's a massive story coming out of this, but let's have a quick reflect on the round that was. Looking at the major games, Liverpool put away Burnley. They were all over them. They had 27 shots, which is pretty wild. They won that one 2-0. And Man City bounced back from that loss against Tottenham in round 1 to really punish Norwich 5-0. Jack Grealish getting his first goal as a citizen. Man United, the main news out of there, their away kit is fucking disgusting. I'm not sure who came up with that. Maybe if anyone wants the Esky to come up with an away kit there, I think we couldn't do worse than that navy blue and yellow, which has nothing to do with Manchester United away kit. 1-1 with Southampton.
That's not great. That's not great.
Look, I'll tell you what, on its own, it's not a horrible kit. Like, if that was Sweden's away kit, I get it.
Yeah.
But if the colour scheme, it has nothing to do with United. Anyways, we've delved too deep into that. Tottenham, they go to 6 points. They won against Wolves. Lukaku, a great return to the Premier League with him scoring in his first 15 minutes against Arsenal. Arsenal, close to bottom of the table.
Last, I think.
Yeah, 0 goals, 4 against. Could be a long year for the soccer cannons. We'll see what happens there. And West Ham, a convincing win against Leicester, 4-1. They go top of the table with that. The big news out of the soccer this week, boys, was Cristiano Ronaldo reportedly in talks with Manchester City. Sean, what have you heard? You think it's close to being a done deal?
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's definitely an offer on the table. I'm just trying to find some details. It looks like a 2-year contract has been offered to Ronaldo with a salary of £12.8 million. That's pounds, or and then 15 mil euros, depending on the side. So the symbol. He's currently earning about, they flipped it on me, 31 million euros, which would be 26.6 million pounds per year after his tax. I think the holdup actually is on Juventus. They want a £25 million fee, transfer fee. They famously had to pay a £105 million transfer fee to get him over. So in the scheme of things, it's probably a little bit more like peanuts. That's why I think people were saying this looks like a done deal. He's going to go to City. Give them the cup already. They're going to win very comfortably.
I've got reports here that Ronaldo's sitting out of training as of tomorrow, I guess, at Juventus. So yeah, seems like it's a done deal.
Yeah, he wants to chase that final EPL gold. He had that huge legacy over at Man United for coming up before he moved over to Madrid. But City's shoe in. He's 36. So get another championship to his name.
Bit of a slap in the face as a Man United fan if he was to sign with City. Him and Alex Ferguson very close by all reports. Took a chance on this young, athletically gifted bloke out of the islands of Portugal, and was a superstar as a youngster at Manchester United. Look, I know we live in a world where money is the premium, but yeah, I think this may leave a sour taste in a lot of United fans' mouth if this is to transpire, and I imagine we're going to find out in the next week.
Yeah, I think this is going to happen pretty quickly because they're both the Italian and Spanish clubs a bit under a money crunch, and for the Juventus to get 25 mil back in a deal, though they probably would like to have that money, get that on an aging Ronaldo, the ageless wonder he is, though. He probably, if he wants, he'd probably play the next 4 years in the EPL. The way he looks after his rig.
Hopefully not.
Well, he's got 2-year deal. So for City, so he's just going to be around that long. If that's the rumored deal. Question for you: out of him and Messi, who's the older one?
I think Ronaldo's older.
Yeah.
Messi is 34.
Yeah.
Always thought Messi was actually the older one, but no, he's the younger one of the two.
Oh yeah.
Ronaldo looks after the rig. Let's be honest. He gets a Coca-Cola and he pushes it away, and he gets the surface.
Drink the water.
I fucked that up. It's agua, apparently. That's what held me back from being Cristiano Ronaldo, if you will. The cerveza over the agua.
Of course, yeah.
I thought it was the fact he had no legs.
Oh, settle.
Sorry, I clarify. Muscles in your legs.
Hey, I'm functional. Anyway, we may as well get into the best segment of the podcast, the On The Esky final round. Ding, ding.
Yeah, and with only a couple of sports to cover, first we'll tackle the UFC and some of the boxing. Jared Cannonier did win his fight against Kevin Gastelum. Bit of story with the judging in this, because a lot of people actually had Gastelum winning the first 2 rounds, and then picking up, I think, the 4th round. But I think it was a split decision. I'll double check that. But Cannonier, they gave him the result though, so he now on track. It just says decision. Don't tell me if it's split or not. But he now firmly in that conversation for potentially getting the winner or maybe even the loser of the middleweight title fight that's coming up between Whittaker and Alan. I have an absolute mouthful over here, boys. Israel Adesanya.
Those waters, they're doing you some damage there.
Too many waters. Water's not good for you.
It looks like it was a unanimous decision in the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Either way, there was a stunning knockout on the undercard, and I'm not even going to try and say his name because I will butcher.
I'll give it a crack. It was Ignacio Bahamondes, who had that spinning wheel kick against Roosevelt Roberts. So it got him so clean, boys. Pretty rare that you see this happen. And the poor bloke, there was like 5 seconds left in this fight, and Ignacio had it wrapped up. and then he threw this around, and he went close to ending that man's life, didn't he?
Yeah, one of twice in one of the knockout of the year competition because it was so close.
Yeah.
Like just lands absolutely flush on the jaw, lights out. Good night.
Yeah, check that one out if you hadn't. Good luck with the spelling. Ignacio Bahamondes. A really nice finish there. Manny Pacquiao fought this week, boys, and he lost to Cuban fighter Udonis Ugas. Ugas took the fight on just 11 days' notice. He defends the WBA welterweight title.
Yep.
Pacquiao's 42. He was respectful in the post-fight interview. Where to next for the former world champ?
Probably politics, because I think a lot of people are talking about this could have potentially have been his last fight. I think there might have been some chat about judges in this one as well, but boxing and judging.
Yeah.
Say what you will. But yeah, Manny getting older up in age. Maybe he needs to start thinking about doing what Floyd's doing at the moment. Fighting, taking those big celebrity money fights instead.
I like it. Manny Pacquiao and Jake Paul. Get around it.
Don't start this. Don't start this. But real chat. He's probably going to go in politics and become the president. So that would not surprise me at all. And you mentioned the Pauls. We should probably talk about it.
Speaking of, yes.
Yeah, Tyron Woodley taking on Jake Paul. That is Monday our time, so Sunday for those in the US. Woodley, by far the best striker that Jake has ever faced. We just say that coming off after fighting YouTubers, a basketball player, and then a retired UFC wrestler with a recent hip replacement. So Woodley's definitely different beast. Paul is the bigger height-wise. I think weight-wise.
4 inches on him.
Yeah, 4 inches on him. The thickness of Woodley probably make this a difference, but that probably doesn't matter too much in boxing because there's no takedowns. There's no wrestling. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. Would not surprise me if Paul wins, honestly, at this point.
I think he's favourite. Monks, if you wouldn't mind the odds, I think he's quite handily favoured here.
Yeah, so his favourite's $1.47. Woodley is out at $2.56 at the moment. Jake Paul is at $1.72 as a knockout KO win. Woodley's at $3, so anticipating the knockout there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would want to see Woodley do to Jake Paul what he did to Josh Koscheck. He was knocking the fuck out. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. They had a rowdy press conference today. I think Jake went after Woodley's mum, who's well known in the mixed martial arts world, Mama Woodley, and her kind of gracious in defeat for her son and getting around the other fighters that he has competed against. So probably a low act from Jake Paul, but Jake Paul.
I think leave the mamas out of it. That's remember the Titans quote there. Leave the mamas out of it. Look, I tell you what, boys. I think Jake is heavily favoured here, and so he should be. I'd love to see the day that he fights someone his age and his size and gives it a real fair crack. Sure, you're a YouTuber, but he's shown he can box. I'd love to see the day where he fights someone that's 6'1" and 25.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that put him in middleweight, roughly? Didn't the middleweight champion for boxing? Oh, that's no, I don't want to do that. That's Canelo.
Good, fight Canelo. I'd pay to see it. Yep. I'd love to see Canelo fight fucking Jake Paul. Pay the man. I'm sick of seeing this bloke doing well of fighting guys that are that much older and that much smaller than him. Go on, put his next fight against Canelo.
We've kind of talked about it before, but that's just the state of boxing at the moment. People would rather watch him and will pay to watch him fight than probably not necessarily to watch Canelo fight. Like I'm sure he brings in numbers as well, but yeah, and outside of a title fight, you're not watching any other boxing match. But I put it out.
Bunks, I put it to this way. Put your hand up if you're paying to watch this fight.
Well,
Well, supposedly they think it's going to be it's the biggest fight in boxing currently. So there's
Fuck it.
nothing else that comes close to it.
I'll catch the highlights.
that's it. Outside of Canelo, I shouted him a beer at the start of the podcast. Nico Ali Walsh is a middleweight.
Yep. Son of the
Yep.
greatest. I mean, grandson of the greatest.
That's
Boys,
it.
let's wrap this shit up. A great segue from fighting to golf. The golf's
As usual.
underway with the BMW Championship in Maryland. Last week, the Northern Trust there in Liberty National. Beautiful views of New York City there from New Jersey. It was the Aussie Cam Smith. He made a late charge. He shot a course record 11 under 60 on Saturday, and on Sunday he got himself through to a playoff with Tony Finau. And then he reminded me why I'm pretty close to being a professional golfer. I thought his tee shot resembled a lot of mine. It bent like possibly 45 degrees to the right, out of bounds. Had to take a drop. Out of the sand. He's playing for 3. He got on the green with 6. Tony Finau he could 3-putt and win. He 2-putted and got the win. Congratulations, Tony Finau. His first PGA win in 5 years, and Cam Smith really representing the Aussies there. We go into this week, the BMW Championship. They cut the field down to 70, and then 30 go into next week for the last round of golf, or the last weekend of golf, I should say, in the golfing season. And that man, John Rahm, he's there. He's 8 under, along with Rory McIlroy and Sam Burns. Outside of that, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he bought a stake in the Milwaukee Brewers. He's channeling his Patrick Mahomes, his Aaron Rodgers. He's putting his money into a local team. He says he's committed to the town or the city of Milwaukee. And the Paralympics is underway, boys. I don't know if you've caught too much of it, but seriously, Australia, we're top of the table. Last time I checked, the Paralympians killing it. And look, if anyone's going to wake up a little bit dusty because maybe they had 10 beers on a podcast or whatever, whatever your excuse is, mate, get down to the track, get down to the pool, get down to the gym, and get stuck into it, boys, tomorrow.
Definitely. Yeah, those Paralympians are something else, what they can do and what they are able to achieve. Definitely a better athlete than I am.
Oh, mate, you seen the swimming where guys with no arms are going through it, and then you look at the time and you're like, holy fuck, that's fast. Like they'll be like, it wouldn't even be close. I'd be off the screen. With no arms, and
that's it.
The table tennis.
Yep. The Afghani with double amputee.
Mate, paddles in his mouth. Paddles in his mouth, and he's just playing.
Serves the ball up with his foot. Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. So the take-home message, boys, is there is no fucking excuse. There is no excuse. Get around it. Push yourself, and how good, and seeing these inspirational athletes going on.
Before we finish up, can I make one quick clarification? While you were talking about golf, I did some quick fact checking. So Jake Paul was 86 kilos for his fight against Ben Askren. So that would push him into light heavyweight division. So they go. So that goes from 79 kilos, and then the cruiserweight junior heavyweight goes to 90. So he would have to fall into the light heavyweight. Currently, that's got champions. They're all Russians. Canelo would be the super middleweight champion at 76 kilos. So for Jake Paul to fight Canelo, he'd have to drop 10 kilos. But it's not to say that Canelo maybe not cut for a fight and they could just do their celebrity fight and then hopefully murder the man.
Mate, Canelo, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, get on the Mickey D's diet, chuck on 10, and then go flog this Jake Paul for us. You do the world a favour.
Oh, that's it.
And with that, I think that'll do it for the podcast this week, boys. As always, it's been a pleasure. If you got this deeper and have listened, I think we're 2 hours 40 now. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We will talk about all these sports all again next week. We'll talk about the cricket in the coming days.
Yep.
Otherwise,
have that special wrap up episode of the cricket.
Otherwise, we'll chat later on.
Have a good weekend, boys. I'm going to rush to the TV and see what's happening in that Port Adelaide Geelong game and possibly catch a bit of the cricket. It's been a pleasure. I'll talk to you after this England-India game finishes up.
You want to know the result? It's full time.
It is full time, is it?
Yeah. Guesses?
Oh, well, Port will way ahead. Someone go with them.
Yeah, Port 86, doubling the score of the Geelong Cats at 43.
That's massive, yeah. Home field advantage. So Port goes straight through to the prelim, and Cats will have an elimination game next week. Can't wait to catch the other 3 AFL finals this weekend. Take care of yourself, boys. I know we're in lockdown. I know it can be a little bit difficult, but enjoy the weekend and the sport that's upcoming.
Definitely.
Will do.
Yeah. Bye.
Catch you later. Bye.